Chapter 234. The next morning. Zhang Feng woke up with a sore back. At this moment, his head hurt even more. Motherf asterisk cur, no matter what I say today, I won't f asterisk king drink anymore. If I continue to drink, I will die. But when he rubbed his head and stood up, he saw that Du Dabing had disappeared. Could it be that he knew it was difficult and slipped away? Damn it, Zhang Feng was a little flustered. If he went out in the middle of the night and was caught by the patrolling soldiers, he would be beaten with a plank. Could it be that he wiped out the bedroom in the backyard? Zhang Feng rubbed his head, went to the kitchen to wash his face with cold water and drank a big ladle of water. Only then did he feel a little better. He lit the fire on the stove and boiled some water. Then he took out the leftover braised meat that was frozen in the water and steamed it on the pot. Then he slowly went to wake up a few lazy bums. Continue. Get up. Stupid way. Get up and eat. You, bums, get up. But after calling for a long time, he did not hear any response. Zhang Feng was confused. Could it be that they drank too much last night and had not woken up until now? But, it should not be to that extent, right? They had been calling for so long. Could it be that this group of young masters were all so sleepy? It was almost noon. Could it be that they really drank until they died? Zhang Feng was shocked. He just remembered that when he came out, Du Dabing was drinking. Then who drank before? He did not know. Could it be, this group of second-generation young masters, they died? Zhang Feng was shocked and hurriedly pushed open the door. Instantly, there was a stench. Zhang Feng's snot and tears came out. He hurriedly looked around the room. Except for the messy sheets, there was nothing in the room. Not to mention people. Damn it. Where is he? Zhang Feng was a little flustered. He was most worried about Old Wei's son. This guy drank so much alcohol the night before and drank so much last night. He would be crippled. Could it be that this group of guys, behind his back, if he was gone and Lao Li came to ask for him, what should he do? At the thought of this, Zhang Feng's head hurt even more. Running out of the tavern, he saw the old scholar squatting on the street corner and dozing off. He hurriedly asked, "Old scholar, did you see those people who came out of my tavern this morning?" The old scholar looked at Zhang Feng as if he were a monster and asked, "Do they owe you money for the wine?" "No." "Then did they take your things?" "Not really." Tell me, did you see it?" The old scholar nodded his head speechlessly. "I saw it. A few of them went out early this morning. They were cursing and swearing along the way. One of them was even carried on someone's back." "Carried away? And he's still cursing and swearing? *CK. Did he really drink too much?" Zhang Feng slapped his face and squatted down beside the old elementary scholar. *CK, I'm in trouble. Damn. This group of idiots, if you can't drink, why are you pretending to be a chicken? Fengzi, those people seem to be fine. Old scholar, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't mess with them. They are people you can't mess with. Old scholar, what do you mean? What's wrong with them? After the old scholar finished speaking, he continued to doze off and ignored Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng became even more anxious. Well, you old scholar. To think that I've always respected you so much. So, you didn't even tell me when you encountered something. You just want to laugh at me, right? The old scholar was speechless. He shook his head. He waved his hand. Zhang Feng hurriedly put his ear to the old scholar's side. The old scholar said, "Do you know who they are? They are the famous bullies in Chang'an. It's not good for you to get too close to them. They are rich, but what about you? You will die." At this moment, Zhang Feng finally understood what the old scholar was worried about. He couldn't help but let out a deep sigh of relief. He patted the old scholar's shoulder and simply sat down next to the old scholar as well. "Old scholar. You don't have to worry about this. They are my brother's sons, so I'm more at ease about this matter. If you have nothing to do, you can come to the entrance of my little pub. If you have nothing to do, we can chat. The old scholar rolled his eyes. He no longer paid attention to Zhang Feng. Kid, if you really want what's good for me, let me give you a piece of advice. One is marked by the company one keeps. Don't get too close to this group of people. Old thing, are you King here to instigate our relationship? Between us brothers, we can't let down the heavens and earth, and we can't let down our conscience. What is this called? This is called eating meat, and I can't let my brother drink soup. What is this called? This is called sharing blessings and suffering together. What do you know? At this moment, Ching Chumo turned the corner while cursing. He opened his eyes and looked at the old scholar. The old scholar didn't even look at him. He only glanced at Li Qingxian. In the end, he sighed and closed his eyes again, pretending to sleep. At this moment, Dugo grabbed Ching Chumo's ear and scolded, Tai Nyo, is this what your father taught you? If you continue to disrespect the old man, do you believe that I will tell Li Qian's father immediately? Hearing this, Ching Chumo shrunk his neck and hurriedly retreated to the back. Zhang Feng was also speechless. However, after being scolded by Dugo, Ching Chumo couldn't flare up. He said sullenly, where did you guys go so early in the morning? Hey! Brother Zhang! Didn't you guys disturb us last night? So we decided to go outside the city to hunt for some game. Look, what's this? When Ching Chumo heard this, he immediately jumped up. Not far behind him, he pointed at the things on the bus that a few workers were dragging. He was completely dumbfounded. What the *CK? You guys went to hunt a tiger early in the morning? Chapter 235. Zhang Feng was about to go crazy. This was King death sentence. Tigers. Tigers were strictly regulated in the Tang dynasty. Apart from the royal gardens, all tigers were forbidden from hunting. Zhang Feng had always wanted to drink tiger bone wine and eat tiger meat. He even wanted to get a tiger skin and hang it in the store to show off. But now that he saw this thing, he lost all interest. What the *CK, Chintinu, you're King stubborn. Let's go, King, drag him to the yamen with me. Let's get your father to plead for mercy. Maybe we can make it in time. Zhang Feng was anxious. But Li Qingxian and the others crossed their arms and looked at Zhang Feng, trying hard not to laugh. After a long while, the old scholar could not stand it anymore. He coughed and said, Fengzi, don't be so busy. Look at these young masters. Hearing that, Zhang Feng suddenly raised his head and looked at these rich second generations with a playful expression. Zhang Feng was so angry that he wanted to take off his shoes and beat them up. He was so worried just now. If something happened to them in his store, what would Lao Li and the others do? These were really the 4 rich second generations, the 4 stubborn ones. He finally understood why the old scholar didn't want him to get too close to these people. He would really die if he got too close to them. Brother Zhang Feng. Dugo smiled elegantly. He pointed at the tiger and said, this is your reward. Lord Zhangsun and Li Gan's father once talked about you. The Minister of Justice thought highly of you and said he wanted to give you a reward. But after thinking about it, he did not know what to give you. Finally, yesterday, Old Chen slapped his head. A hero deserves a sword, so this tiger is a reward from Lord Zhangsun. What was going on? Who gave gifts like this? Was the Tang dynasty so domineering? Giving a tiger directly? Zhang Feng had some doubts at first, but after hearing Dugo's explanation, Zhang Feng faintly thought about everything from the beginning to the end, and finally understood. It was impossible to find a tiger in the Qinling Mountains early in the morning. Only the tiger in the royal cemetery was possible. And if one wanted to hunt in the imperial mausoleum, who would dare to do so unless the emperor allowed it? Moreover, they even dared to pull it out on the streets so arrogantly, and no one from the government came to interrogate them? Zhang Feng couldn't think of a second possibility other than having a document in advance. Hunting in the Qinling Mountains? Hee. I'll give you 1 month. If you can find a tiger in the Qinling Mountains, forget about catching it, even if you can see it, it'll be my loss. This thing was not even in the Qinling Mountains, okay? As early as the era of Qin Shi Huang, this thing had been wiped out in the Qinling Mountains. If this thing really existed at this time, Zhang Feng would really think that the person who spoke was an idiot. At this time, more and more people gathered on the streets. Zhuzi and Guzi even secretly ran over to pluck the fur on the tiger's back. In the end, people from the government came to urge everyone to quickly deal with this thing. Zhang Feng could only brace himself and bring this thing to the small tavern under the envious eyes of the neighbors. People were afraid of being famous, and pigs were afraid of being fat. Now that he had brought the tiger to the small tavern, he had to think of a way to hide this matter. Otherwise, he would be targeted by the Turks sooner or later. After all, the Turk's spy next to him had just been eradicated. Don't worry. Li Qingxian patted Zhang Feng's worried face and said, "My father has already taken care of this matter." Moreover, it was given as a reward by the empress to comfort the frightened people. It was the prey that the emperor hunted. Hearing this, Zhang Feng heaved a deep sigh of relief. "Old Li, you're so thoughtful. Let's go. Brother, let's eat tiger meat today." Zhang Feng didn't say anything else. He pulled Li Qingxian towards the tavern with his head lowered. However, as if he had thought of something, Zhang Feng waved his hand and said, "Old Xiuzai, come to the tavern next time. I'll keep the tiger's penis for you." Ha ha ha. Yo. Old Xiuzai. Tiger's penis. Why don't you hurry up and thank Zhang Feng? Ha ha ha. Amidst the laughter of the neighbors, the old Xiuzai's face turned red. Once they entered the small tavern, a few people who looked like servants dragged the tiger to the backyard and personally dissected it. Zhang Feng was also happy to be free. The few of them sat at the table and Zhang Feng asked gloomily, "This is the surprise you gave me?" "Yes." Wei Shuyu shrugged and said, "This morning, Du Dabing yelled at us and said that we gave you a rubbing last night but you didn't want it. So we were wondering if we should give you something new." In the end, Chen Tinius slapped his head and remembered that the mountain kings all had this in their homes. "So, before the sun rose, we went out to tinker with this thing." Hearing this, Zhang Feng exploded. He stared at Li Qingxian and said, "So, you guys went to the imperial forest to poach?" Li Qingxian shrugged speechlessly. "Don't worry about this, my father will take care of it and you can eat to your heart's content. Do you think it's so easy to enter the imperial hunting ground? If we can enter, it means that the emperor already knew about it. So, you see, no one has come to ask, which means that the emperor already knows about it." Chapter 236. The tiger skin, the bloody tiger skin, was stretched taut on the wall of the backyard. Wei Shuyu demonstrated her swordsmanship, slicing a piece of tiger meat into thin, sparkling and translucent slices with each slash of her sword. Zhang Feng closed the pub and set up a charcoal fire under the crooked tree in the backyard, preparing to barbecue. Du Dabing and Li Gan stared unblinkingly at Zhang Feng's seasoning jar. Zhang Feng even tricked Qing Chimo into swallowing a piece of tiger meat with salt and pepper. Xiao Bing was still lying beside the well, hugging the bucket and refusing to let go. After a while, the sizzling tiger meat on a stone slab the size of a millstone was all in their stomachs. They did not drink alcohol today. No matter how Zhang Feng urged them, they did not dare to drink. Wine was a good thing, but it was also deadly. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, they simply took off their clothes and lay down in a cool place to digest the food. At this moment, Zhang Feng also felt incomparably relaxed. This was the life he needed. Although it was a little scary, at the very least, these guys were very energetic. However, these guys had to be nurtured. There were a few times when Lao Li and the others found all kinds of reasons to send them here. Now, he finally knew how much of a headache Lao Li and the others had caused. Perhaps it was the fault of the father for not teaching the child well. However, Zhang Feng also knew that Lao Li and the others only knew how to hit people and throw money at people. Did they know how to educate their children? If they knew how to educate their children, then, how did they become the notorious bullies of Chang'an? Even the old elementary scholars were afraid of them. It was time to rectify the family's culture for Lao Li and the others. Du Dabing was a talent, but he was too king scary. He was a top student. It was best to encourage him to go to the Imperial College and then to the Ministry of Justice. Then, he could ask Du Dabing to get in touch with Lord Zhongsun. This was also something that could be done in a matter of minutes. As for Li Gan, Zhang Feng still did not know what he was capable of. However, it seemed that the people here were very afraid of this elegant, smiling guy. As for the remaining 3 guys, the ideal place was to go to the military camp. This was a ferocious general born for the army. With a little bit of training, he would definitely be an existence comparable to Qing Yao Jin. At the very least, when dealing with the Turkic Khaganate in the future, he might be able to make use of them. At the thought of this, Zhang Feng asked, "Brothers, let me ask you, what are your dreams? In other words, is there anything you want to do the most?" Yes. When Xing Chimo heard this, he was so excited that he almost jumped up. "Brothers, I'll say it first. Don't steal it." Zhang Feng gestured for him to continue. Xing Chimo then said, "I'm the second of the 3 brothers in my family. You all know that the head of the family and the affairs of the family are basically passed down to the eldest, which is my eldest brother. Therefore, Lao Tzu does not have any dreams in his life. Lao Tzu does not know how to do business, and he doesn't know many people. He just wants to make a living in Chang'an City. It would be best if he could have a bunch of wives and concubines." Zhang Feng kept staring at Xing Chimo's eyes. The eyes were the window to a person's soul. No matter how strong a person was, when faced with such a problem, even if he said the same thing, one would still be able to see what one needed the most from his eyes. At this moment, Zhang Feng saw indignation. Yes. Xing Chimo was indignant. As the son of a duke, he was under too much pressure. He wanted to surpass his father, but his father told him that his achievements overshadowed his master's. Therefore, from then on, he began to give up on himself. He liked to play with swords and sticks, but until now, he had only managed to get to the position of a lieutenant. Moreover, he was a dispensable idle person in Chang'an City. He was indignant, but what else could he do? This was the family of an emperor. "Do you want to join the martial arts?" Zhang Feng's sudden voice stunned Xing Chimo, Wei Shuyu, and Zhang Sun Chong. However, everyone's eyes glanced at Li Qingqian, intentionally or otherwise, and finally fell silent. Yes. How could he not? But now, he also wanted to go. However, Lao Tzu did not want him to go. What else could he do? Zhang Feng understood Xing Chimo's heart. Because, just a moment ago. In that instant, he saw a flash of passion in Xing Chimo, Zhang Sun Chong, and Wei Shuyu's eyes. However, this flash of passion quickly disappeared without a trace. Zhang Feng seemed to understand something. He could not help but sigh in his heart. What kind of arrow was this? Everything is based on seniority. However, Zhang Feng could not help but have a strange look in his eyes. Previously, your father wanted you to come to me, as if he wanted me to teach you something. However, I refused because I felt that you were a burden. I don't know if you came to me in private or if your father asked you to come. Since I, Zhang Feng, am your father's friend, and your father did not say anything when you did not return last night, it means that your father recognizes me. So, do you want to become stronger? Do you want to soar? Do you want to spread your wings and soar in your favorite place? Do you want to break free from your shackles, get rid of your stubborn reputation, and be yourself for once? Chapter 237. Yes. Almost at the moment when Zhang Feng finished his words, everyone jumped up excitedly. Didn't they want to surpass their father? Surpass their glory? Alas, their brilliance was too strong. They wanted to soar, but their wings were tied down by their fathers. And they used a way to numb themselves to not think about this matter. They wanted to use this silent protest to change their father's mind. However, they had tried and it was useless, even though Qing Chimo almost turned Chang and city upside down and even dragged all the minister's sons into the water. They became stubborn members. However, their father still berated them for being unfilial sons. They were prodigals. Who could understand what they wanted to do the most? No one. It could even be said that their father knew, but he did not allow it. Why? There were only 4 words. High merit intimidated the emperor. If their family wanted to pass on safely and live well under the emperor's nose, then high merit intimidated the emperor was a taboo. Therefore, Qing Yaojin would play dumb. Therefore, Wei Zheng and the group would rather have nothing than be tainted by other things. It was not that they did not have the means to make money, but they wanted to think for their descendants and their family. The emperor's power was unpredictable. This was the imperial court. This was their fate. Brother Zhang Feng, do you have any ideas? Zhang Sun also put away his cynicism and looked at Zhang Feng sincerely. Even Du Go looked at Zhang Feng with a burning gaze. As for Li Qingqian, he lowered his head silently. Zhang Feng looked around at everyone. I know what all of you are thinking. I know what all of you want to do, but I also know what your father is worried about. Your father is doing something big right now. And it is a very big thing. What is it? Qing Chimo asked with reddened eyes. Zhang Feng took a deep breath and said in a low voice, do you think it will be small when it is done for the emperor? Everyone was stunned. Could it be that this guy knew his father's identity? But, why didn't anyone tell them? The crowd could not help but look suspiciously at Du Go. Seeing this, Du Go hastily shook his head. But nobody seemed to believe him. Du Go was anxious and asked, Zhang Xiong, you said that our father is working for His Majesty? How come we didn't know about it? And such a big thing, how did you know about it? Can you tell us? Hearing this, everyone's eyes gathered on Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng smacked his lips and said, actually, this whole thing started with the eggs. You guys should still remember that, right? Since then, they have been working for His Majesty, and I hope that you will all keep your mouths shut. If you dare to speak nonsense about this matter, even Heavenly King Lao Tzu won't be able to save you. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They thought that Zhang Feng knew their father's true identity, but now it seemed that he still didn't know. Although their father did not tell them much about what happened after that, they more or less knew. After all, they were living under the same roof, so how could they not know? Zhang Feng saw this and said again, I know that Lao Li and the rest will definitely not let you guys get involved in this, so guess what you are worried about, right? You are wrong. Your father is doing this to protect your lives. The fewer people involved in this matter, the better. So I can understand why you guys are acting this way. But today, I want to talk about something else. This matter will definitely not affect them, and it will also allow you to be in the right position and do the right thing. What is it? Just say it. That's right, brother, you are so wishy-washy, are you a man? Just say it, do you want us to take over the mountain and become kings, or do you want us to do something else? Just say it. Qing Chimo was so anxious that he was going crazy. Hee hee. Zhang Feng laughed mischievously, infuriating everyone. Zhang Feng waved his hand and said, think about it, what should a man, a hot-blooded man, do? Protect the country. To die on the battlefield. Qing Chimo and Wei Shuyu said in unison. But the next moment, everyone was stunned. Did he mean to let them enter the camp? Yes. Zhang Feng got up, put his hands behind his back, and raised his head to the sky, letting the wind blow his long hair, which danced wildly in the wind. He shouted loudly, drunk, looking at the sword under the lamp, dreaming of blowing the horn and joining the camp. 800 miles of the army under the scorching heat, 50 bowstrings turning over the Great Wall, soldiers gathering on the battlefield in autumn. The horse is fast, the bow is like a thunderbolt, the string is frightening. But the king of the world, winning the reputation of life and death, poor things happened in vain. The bright moon of the Qin and Han dynasties, the long march of thousands of miles did not return, but the general of Longqing flew, not allowing the horse to pass the Yin mountain. The two poems came out. Everyone was shocked. What was this? Wasn't this the kind of heroism that men pursued? Everyone read some books, and among them, Li Qingxian and Du Go were even more outstanding. At this time, every line of Zhang Feng's poem was like a stretch of saber light and sword shadow, making them intoxicated. No one knew how long had passed. Qing Chumo and the others trembled all over, and even the corners of their eyes were full of tears. Not allowing the horse to pass the Yin mountain. Drunk, looking at the sword under the lamp. This is what a man should be like. This is where I should go. Chapter 238. Even. Among them, Dugo's perception was deeper. Because last night, he learned another meaning from Zhang Feng's mouth. It was a kind of artistic conception that could not be felt in books. He had been pondering about it before, and even followed them to hunt the tiger today. However, he was looking for the feeling that Zhang Feng mentioned. But, unfortunately, until now, he still could not understand the artistic conception that Zhang Feng mentioned. However, at this moment, in Zhang Feng's two poems, his feelings were the deepest. In these two poems, the heroic, free and easy soldier deeply attracted him. He knew that Zhang Feng had definitely not been to these places. However, he still saw the hazy battlefield from Zhang Feng's poem. The smell of blood, the roar of swords clashing, the sound of war horses neighing, the blood and fire, laughing wildly to the sky, drinking and talking merrily. Du Go yearned for all of this. Is this the soul of the poem? Brother Zhang? In the end, Du Go was the first to wake up. And when he spoke, Li Qingxian also woke up from the shock and looked at Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng shook his head. Everyone has a path that suits them. For example, some people are naturally suited for one thing, obsessed for one thing, and crazy for one thing. Just like how you are obsessed with your words, he is not suitable for the battlefield. But what he wrote was a battlefield. He can use the pen in his hand to let the enemy see the majesty of the Tang dynasty. But this is not limited to the imperial court. It is beyond the imperial court. Do you understand? Du Go was stunned. He fell into a complete silence. Zhang Feng knew that he needed time to digest. He would need at least a day to walk out of his thoughts. At that time, he would no longer be himself. Everything he had learned before would be sublimated. Zhang Feng did not know if old Du would say anything if he did this. His words had changed a lunatic who was obsessed with literature. He himself did not know whether it was right or wrong, but this was what he had to do. Since Lao Li and the others had thrown this mess to him. As for the rest of the matter, let them have a headache by themselves. Zhang Feng glanced at the pensive Li Qingxian and asked indifferently, "Have you comprehended it?" "No." Li Qingxian shook his head indifferently. He was very confused. His identity as the crown prince had determined his fate. He could not be like Qing Chumo and the others, who were unrestrained and unrestrained. Even more so, he couldn't be angry over a beauty, and he couldn't have a trip that he could just leave as he wished. In Chang and City, he could occasionally go crazy, and his father might turn a blind eye to it. However, a shackle had firmly imprisoned him since he was born. What could he think? I know you. You are a natural-born leader and strategist. You are different from them. Zhang Feng looked at Li Qingxian indifferently and said, "You give me a very strange feeling. It's like I'm looking at old Li. You're all born to play with power. I don't know if it's because of your business connections, but old Chen doesn't need to say anything. He's born to be unsuitable for business. However, old Sun is a profiteer. He is suitable for negotiating with foreign countries and catering to the imperial court. Old Du and old Feng are not necessary. Old Feng is your butler and accountant. Old Du is not suitable for business. He is a natural-born lobbyist to deal with the people. As for Old Wei, he is most suitable for managing money and monitoring. These people are not suitable for business because their strengths and weaknesses are very clear. However, I can't see through you and your father. It's not that I want to see any secrets between you. How can there be no secrets between friends? However, I found one thing. That is, you and your father are natural-born businessmen. You are the kind of people who are above Old Sun and Old Wei. Tell me, am I right? Li Qingxian was shocked. You know how to read faces? Zhang Feng rolled his eyes. As long as you are not a fool, you can see it. Why do you need to read faces? Do you really think I am a god? Just tell me if it's true or not. Li Qingxian could not help but be even more shocked. He gave a thumbs up. What an expert. This was simply an expert. To be able to see this from the words and actions of the people and their expressions, it was simply. This was incredible. It seemed that he had to be more careful in the future. It was not surprising that he could see something from his father, but how could Li Qingxian not be shocked that he could see it from him? He had already become friends with Qin Chumo and the others. Basically, no one on the streets would associate him with the crown prince. However, Zhang Feng could. How could Li Qingxian not be shocked? Right, brother Zhang Feng, I have a question to ask you. Please speak. Zhang Feng was laughing in his heart. To be able to fool this group of people, it was simply, what he was most afraid of was Du Dabing's mouth and Chen Hania's slaps. He was simply going crazy. When he was agitated, he would give you a slap. Occasionally, he would even give you a slap. The key was that this slap was like a hammer hitting his body. Zhang Feng had to think of a way to get rid of this group of simple-minded people. As for people with such great strength, what was the most suitable for them? The military camp. As for Du Dabing and Li Qingxian, what was the most suitable for them? Chapter 239. Li Qingxian thought for a long time. Combining the two poems that Zhang Feng recited and the words that he said to Du Go, he could faintly feel that Zhang Feng was standing from the perspective of a businessman. He wanted them to break away from being good merchants and advance in their career. Qin Chumo and the others were strong, so they were undoubtedly the best place to return to the military camp. However, would Emperor Father agree? Would Uncle Cheng and the others agree? He didn't know. Li Qingxian asked, you want them to go to the military camp, but what about Du Dabing and me? Where do you think the two of us are suitable? The two of you. I think the most suitable place is the Ministry of Justice. Oh. Zhang Feng said confidently, the Ministry of Justice. Right now, your father and Zhang Sun Wuji have already formed an inseparable bond. Take this cooperative for example. Even if Zhang Sun Wuji wants to break away from your father, he won't be able to do so. Li Qingxian frowned and asked, why? Isn't it simple? Binding benefits. The instigator of this matter is your father, and your father has already carried it out. Other than the government, who is the first to implement this, which means that the emperor has tacitly approved of it. Do you think that the emperor will hand this matter over to others? Li Qingxian thought for a moment before shaking his head. Isn't that enough? The emperor wants to seize control of the economy, so he will definitely need merchants, and your father is the best candidate. At this time, your crisis has also appeared. The more you walk down this path, the more dangerous it will become. If you don't make use of this opportunity to change your identities, it would be best if one of you can enter the Ministry of Justice while the emperor is in a good mood. I have observed you for a while now. You are the best candidate. Du Dabing is too stubborn, so he needs someone to restrain him, and you are the key. Thus, I think that you are the best candidate. However, I suggest that you start with the Ministry of Justice, which means that you will be exiled from the army. This way, the emperor won't be able to see your motives. This way, after the war with the Turks, you will be a meritorious official. Returning to the imperial court as a meritorious official and being conferred a title of nobility will be a matter of minutes. How about it? How do you choose? Li Qingxian was shocked. If his family was really a merchant, then this would be a brilliant plan. Unfortunately, they were the royal family. Royal family, was there a need to do this? No need. Then why is Zhang Feng in such a hurry for me to clear my identity? Furthermore, he had to protect himself. Could it be that something big was about to happen? Brother Zhang Feng, why does it sound like something big is about to happen? Yes. Zhang Feng's voice was grave. Originally, I wanted to say it the night before, but I got drunk. It's not your father's fault. They were just happy. However, you must go back and tell your father and the others about this matter. Tell them to be vigilant. When Li Qingxian saw Zhang Feng like this, he could not help but become somewhat nervous. He hurriedly asked, "Brother, tell me. Do you know about the Guanlong group?" Buzz. Li Qingxian's expression suddenly changed. And it was a huge change. Guanlong. That was a taboo word for everyone in the Tang dynasty. It was a name that even the royal family was very afraid of. What's wrong with the Guanlong group? Are they going to show? Zhang Feng hurriedly kept quiet. Then he put his arm around Li Qingxian's neck and said, "Keep your voice down. Do you want to die? Do you know the night before? The night your father went back, the Tujue's nest next door was destroyed by the imperial court. Maybe there are people from the imperial court lying in ambush around now. Don't be loud." Li Qingxian hurriedly nodded. Although he knew. "I'm telling you, this is inevitable. The Guanlong group has been controlling the economic lifeline of the Tang dynasty for years. It's impossible to get rid of their control. But now the emperor wants to get rid of their shackles and reorganize the economy of the Tang dynasty. Then, there will be a conflict of interest with the Guanlong group. So, this is inevitable." Li Qingxian was shocked. The Guanlong group. That was a terrifying existence that had destroyed the previous dynasty, and the Li clan had only been able to rise to power because of the Guanlong group's support. That was how they had established the great Tang dynasty. Imperial Father's greatest wish was to crush the Guanlong group, but now, you're saying that the cooperative has affected their interests? Yes. This is inevitable. I suspect that the emperor must have made arrangements. I just want to ask if your father knows about this. If he doesn't, it'll be difficult. My father doesn't know. Ha. Then it'll be difficult. Zhang Feng slapped his forehead. He felt a headache coming. Now, go back immediately and tell your father about this, so that you don't get caught in the crossfire. Also, you bastards, get the hell out of here. Otherwise, your families will definitely perish. The size of the Guanlong group is beyond your imagination. Even the emperor doesn't dare to touch it easily. Now that he has, there will be turmoil in the Tang dynasty. Chapter 240. Li Qingxian was aghast. Isn't this too terrifying? At this moment, he finally understood why Zhang Feng wanted to find a way out for them. Turns out he already knew that something was going to happen, and it was going to be a big deal. This, Guanlong group. This terrifying name, is he going to make a move? Li Qingxian was somewhat alarmed. This name, Zhang Feng didn't explain clearly. Not only can he influence the rise and fall of a dynasty, but he also has the 5 surnames and 7 hopes behind him. This was the most fatal point. If his family was really a businessman, then he would definitely turn around and run, immediately returning home, even if it meant moving his family. They couldn't bear the anger of Guanlong group. Moreover, they were the instigator of this matter. Wait a minute. Li Qingxian seemed to have thought of something, hurriedly asked, "Brother Zhang Feng, this matter was started by you. If the imperial family and Guanlong group were to fight, then wouldn't you be in the most danger?" However, Zhang Feng smiled instead. "If you hear that your subordinates are going to rebel, but your subordinate, would you care about his relationship with a tavern manager? And a 20-year-old sloppy shopkeeper at that? This is where I am safe. They still look down on me. To put it bluntly, their target is the emperor, and the instigator of this matter, which is your family. But I am the safest existence, you don't have to worry about my safety. However, I'm only guessing about this matter. As for whether the Guanlong group has reached an agreement with the emperor, it's still unknown. The best way is for all of your juniors to retreat to Longyu Road immediately. In this way, even if the situation really explodes to an incalculable extent, you won't lose much. Zhang Feng didn't dare to speak too confidently. If the emperor had reached an agreement with Guanlong group, then their actions would be useless, but if they didn't reach an agreement, then who knows what would happen next. If the matter was too serious, Lao Li and the rest would be frightened, and if they angered Li Shimin, then they would die even faster. However, these words were not the case in Li Qingxian's ears. It would be better if Zhang Feng didn't say anything comforting at the end, but now that he said it, the trouble was really big. Li Qingxian asked with some worry, then what do you think, if the emperor is not prepared for this matter, or if the emperor doesn't know about Guanlong group's conspiracy, then what should we do? What should we do? Zhang Feng really didn't know. But after thinking, he finally said, well, if the emperor is not prepared, if this matter happens, then we have to divert everyone's attention. How? Hey! I say, why is everyone in your family so strange? Even the emperor isn't anxious? The emperor doesn't know how to be anxious, the eunuch is the eunuch? Zhang Feng rolled his eyes. Seeing that Li Qingxian was so anxious that he was sweating profusely, he scratched his head and said, right now, the best way is to create a war at the border. How do you make it? Li Qingxian was anxious. The Guanlong group's influence was very wide. If they didn't make any preparations now, then the consequences would be all over. Let me put it this way. If you were the emperor, then if you encountered this matter, would you divert the attention of this war? Li Qingxian didn't understand Zhang Feng's meaning and hurriedly asked, Brother Zhang, do you mean to artificially create a war? Or are the Turks about to start a war? Li Qingxian couldn't figure it out. He couldn't figure it out at all. He didn't know what this war meant, but since Zhang Feng could predict the conspiracy between the Turks and Tubo, then what would it be this time? I heard from my father that you said before that whoever starts a war first will lose this game, right? And now Tubo and Tuyuhan of the Turks are vaguely showing signs of alliance. If we rashly start a war now, then this fuse will explode, won't it? It won't. Zhang Feng waved his hands dismissively. As for this matter, I said that the emperor isn't anxious, but the eunuch is. Why don't you think about it? Since even you know about it, how can the officials in the royal court not think of it? Do you think that those officials in the royal court are incompetent? What I mean is that if I were that person, I would arrange a military deployment. The lifeline of the Guanlong group is concentrated in Longyu, Longxi, and other places. Even the Silk Road is an important economic region for them. Then, if we were to send a few important figures there in a high-profile manner, such as the Crown Prince, to patrol the world, he would think twice. And because of this matter, the attention of the Turks will also be drawn and their operations will be paused. Although it won't be to the extent of starting a war, the tense atmosphere will be the breakthrough to deal with the Guanlong group. If he dares to make a move, he should first consider whether the economic lifeline he has established there will be lost because of this. Zhang Feng smiled confidently. Pointing to the dazed group, he looked at Li Qingxian and said, this is the so-called besieging way to save Zhao. This is also the reason why I have you all join the army. It won't be a real war, and it will serve as a deterrent. You all will be able to advance smoothly through this matter. I believe that the officials in the royal court won't let go of this opportunity, right? How about it? Do you want to be promoted? Chapter 241. Li Qingxian fell silent. This matter was too important. Putting everything else aside, if the crisis of the Guanlong group was really resolved according to Zhang Feng's words, it would indeed be effective. However, he still did not know the deeper meaning behind it. But what if this operation, for example, was to let people know that the Crown Prince had personally come to the drill ground at the Longyu border? What kind of effect would that have? Presumably, the Turks would be the first to not let him off. Then, let's talk about a double-edged sword. Once the Turks could not help but assassinate him, then an all-out war would be triggered. Although it was good to attack Wei to rescue Zhao, the prerequisite was that Guanlong and the Turks would have some misgivings. And what would their misgivings be? Li Qingxian could not figure it out. At this moment, one after another, Qing Chumo and the others woke up from the poem and the mood that Zhang Feng had described. Seeing that Li Qingxian had also sunk into deep thought, they could not help but be shocked. Could it be that Zhang Feng was really a god? 2 poems were enough to make everyone look like this? Originally, he had thought that only the fist and Du Dabing's mouth were the most powerful knives. But now, Qing Chumo suddenly felt that Zhang Feng's mouth was the real sharp weapon. If this was placed on a battlefield with thousands of soldiers and horses, then wouldn't it mean that as long as he sat there and shouted 2 poems, the enemy would disarm? Damn it, at this moment, Zhang Feng finally heaved a sigh of relief. He was a person who threw a brick to attract jade. He wanted these people to find their own path and not blindly follow the crowd. What only the imperial court was suitable to serve the country? That was all bullshit and all talk. If everyone in the world was like that, then who the hell would be guarding the border? And now, after drinking with Lao Li and the others 2 nights ago, and after hearing that the Turk spy had been caught, until today, there were no other rumors or any movement from the Turks. Zhang Feng could not help but feel that something was wrong. What exactly was wrong? Zhang Feng didn't know. However, he could faintly sense that there was a pair of enormous hands that surpassed the Tubo Turks. Perhaps the controller was overlooking everything in Chang'an. This feeling made Zhang Feng very unhappy. Therefore, when Yu Du Go and the others were chatting, Zhang Feng could faintly guess that it was the Guanlong group. At this time, the 5 surnames and 7 hopes would not make a move. However, this Guanlong group was an alliance established in the Guanlong region by the 5 surnames and 7 hopes to handle the economy. That was why it was commonly known as the Guanlong group. The Guanlong group was bound to be paying attention to every move in Chang'an. Although Li Shimin had spread the matter of the cooperative to various states, the source was still in Chang'an, in Li Shimin. This was the most important thing. He didn't know what Li Shimin was thinking, but he, Zhang Feng, had to think of everything that he could think of before Li Shimin. He had to screen out the most correct way to deal with it. And finally, from the moment when he instigated Chen Tinyu and the others to enlist in the army, Zhang Feng finally thought of the best solution. That was the garrison troops that Cheng Yaojin and Li Jing had deployed in Yuzhou and Longyu Road. Only when the garrison troops moved, or when a heavyweight in the imperial court suddenly went to the garrison in Longyu, would everyone's guess shift to the garrison in Longyu. Thus, Chang'an would have a chance to breathe. Otherwise, not to mention Li Shimin, as long as the Guanlong group made a move, then in minutes, everyone in Chang'an city would be finished. Right now, all the arrangements had become a wedding dress for the Guanlong group. In the end, when Zhang Feng was immersed in organizing all of this, Li Qingxian and the others quietly left. They had to leave. This matter was too big. On the one hand, Zhang Feng had succeeded in activating the enthusiasm of Du Go and the others to join the army. On the other hand, they also learned from Li Qingxian that they didn't want to hear the 2 words Guanlong. How could they possibly sit still and do nothing? Seeing Zhang Feng in a daze, they hurriedly got up and left. A moment later, everyone followed the gloomy Li Qingxian into the imperial study. After seeing Li Shimin, everyone hurriedly knelt down. Son greets father. Son greets the emperor. Rise. Li Shimin put down the booklet in his hand, rubbed his forehead, and asked, "How was it? What did you get from the tavern?" "Father, son wants to go to the military camp with Anywhere Mo and Zhang Sun to gain experience," Li Qingxian said. Hearing this, Li Shimin was stunned. "Why do you suddenly want to go to the military camp to gain experience? Tell me, did brother Zhang Feng give you some bewitching potion?" Li Shimin's interest was piqued. He simply stopped thinking about the matter at hand and looked at them curiously. In his memory, these people, except for Du Go, were all well-known bullies in Chang'an city. If not for the fact that they didn't do anything bad, Li Shimin would have already questioned them. But this group of rascals actually wanted to go to the military camp? Li Shimin couldn't help but be interested. Father. Yesterday, when we left the palace, we wanted to experience Zhang Feng's spirit, but we were convinced by his 2 poems. Oh. What kind of poems are they? They actually made you want to go to the military camp? Hearing this, Li Qingxian tilted his head and nudged Du Go with his elbow. Du Go then reacted and imitated Zhang Feng's tone, saying, drunk, looking at swords under the light, dreaming of blowing the horn in the camp. 800 miles of troops under the scorching heat, 50 miles of sound beyond the Great Wall, soldiers on the battlefield in autumn. The bright moon of the Qin and Han dynasties, the long march of thousands of miles did not return, but the flying generals of Longqing did not teach the horses to cross the Yin Mountains. Chapter 242. At the moment Du Go opened his mouth, Li Shimin was shocked. Xiao Gizi hurriedly threw a brand new piece of paper in front of Li Shimin. Li Shimin followed Du Go's intonation and began to write. But Long Qingfei is here, I won't teach Huma to cross Yin Mountain. Good poem. Good poem. Li Shimin looked at the poem in his hand. Every stroke, coupled with Du Go's somewhat tender voice, had a different flavor. Li Shimin felt as if he was seeing the battle at Helan Mountain. This is the poem that Brother Zhang Feng gave you? Li Shimin seemed to understand Zhang Feng's meaning. Seeing everyone nod, he waved his hand and said, pass down the order. Let Wei Zheng, Du Ruhui, and Xing Yaojin enter the palace quickly. Yes. Xiao Gizi hurriedly left. Li Shimin waved his hand and dismissed everyone. Then he said, Qingxian, did Brother Zhang Feng say anything else? Or did he say that the Turks are about to make a move? He did not believe that Zhang Feng would say something like this for no reason. Since he had persuaded everyone to join the army and made such a poem, something big must have happened. What could it be? Li Shimin frowned and fell into deep thought. Now, Chang'an city was thriving. Large quantities of trade goods poured into Chang'an from all over the world like floodwaters. What was this? This made Li Shimin see a glimmer of prosperity. At this moment, Li Qingxian waited for the palace maids, eunuchs, and guards outside the door to leave. Then he immediately had Zhang Sun, Wei Shuyu, and Xing Chumo guard the door. At the door, he said, Father, I heard 2 words from Brother Zhang Feng. Guanlong? Guanlong. They spoke almost in unison. Li Shimin and Li Qingxian both said the same word. Hearing this, Li Shimin was shocked. This is impossible. Now, everything in Chang'an city, as well as Liangzhou and Luozhou, was thriving. How could there be any bad signs? Did Brother Zhang Feng say that after drinking? Li Shimin had some doubts. However, Li Qingxian shook his head and said, Imperial Father, Brother Zhang Feng said that he wanted to tell you about this the night you were drinking, but you were all drunk in the end. He said that Imperial Father wants to seize the economy, which will inevitably cause the dissatisfaction of the Guanlong group. Therefore, he proposed to divert the attention of the Guanlong group. Only in this way will I have a chance to deal with it. Hearing this, Li Shimin's expression turned serious again. With Guanlong group's ability, they could find out about this matter in minutes. However, until now, he had not received any information from the Guanlong Corporation. Could it be that the Guanlong Corporation was also observing? Impossible. This was not the Guanlong Corporation's way of doing things. If the Guanlong Corporation wanted to cause trouble, all they needed to do was to cut off all the trade routes to Chang'an. But now, looking at the reports on Chang'an's abundance of goods on the desk, as well as the piles of goods, from the warehouses in the imperial city to where all the merchants stocked up, there were even many large items that were stockpiled on the streets of Chang'an city. How could this be a sign that the Guanlong Corporation wanted to cut off the trade routes? And Zhang Feng would definitely not speak without thinking. Tell me everything that happened in the past 2 days. Do go, tell me what you think about this. Li Shimin waved his hand, indicating for the 2 to sit down, then returned to the dragon chair and picked up the teacup. He wanted to drink a mouthful of water to moisten his dry throat, but the hand holding the teacup could not stop trembling. Replying to your majesty, this matter is like this. Du Go and Li Qingxian told Li Shimin in detail everything that happened in the small tavern. At this time, Li Shimin finally understood why Zhang Feng strongly recommended Li Qingxian and the others to go to the border. If they were merchants, then this was really a good opportunity to soar into the sky. Li Shimin could not help but feel a trace of guilt. Until now, brother Zhang Feng had been thinking for him, but what about him? Although he was not a real merchant, wasn't the entire Tang dynasty run by him? If that was the case, he could also be considered a merchant. But this matter, Li Shimin thought about it carefully, and indeed found a trace of strangeness. That was, the goods of these merchants were basically transported in, and very few of them were transported out. Could this be, something was not right? Only entering and not exiting. Once the Guanlong group started to suppress Chang, and then these hoarded goods would be Li Shimin's life. At this time, if there was a trace of bad news, then the first to panic would definitely be the merchants, and then it would cause panic among the people. Only now did Li Qingxian and Du Go finish recording everything that they had seen and heard. Including the words that Zhang Feng and old Xiaocai had said, Li Qingxian spoke clearly. Then, Li Qingxian said, "Father, I think it's better for me to go to Longyu. This matter has not really exploded, which means that the Guanlong group is deploying even greater suppression. If we don't take precautions first, then we will definitely suffer heavy losses. Father's plan to seize economic power will also die in the womb. On the contrary, it will help the Guanlong group." So, Li Qingxian excitedly knelt down and said, "Father, I request to go to Longyu's border. With the Crown Prince's name of patrolling on behalf of the heavens, this will undoubtedly attract the attention of all forces, and Chang'an's crisis will be relieved. As long as Chang'an's crisis can be resolved, then it won't be so easy for the Guanlong group to plot again." "No. Your Highness, you can't do this." At this time, Wei Zheng's voice could be heard from the outside. Following Wei Zheng were Du Ruhui, Fang Xianling, Zhang Sun Wuji, and Qing Yaojin. Even Yu Qigong and other generals came together. Chapter 243. While they were talking, Du Ruhui presented a booklet with both hands. "Your Majesty, something happened in Chang'an." Hearing that, Li Shimin's expression suddenly changed. "What?" He hurriedly took the booklet from Du Ruhui's hand and waved his hand. Du Go was also driven out. Du Ruhui didn't care at all. "Your Majesty, when we came here just now, we felt that Chang'an was very strange these 2 days. As for what was strange, I couldn't tell. In the past 3 days, the silver in all the prefectures of the Tang dynasty was basically used up. Almost all the merchants only borrowed and didn't save. The money they saved was not as much as the money they lent. And all the goods in all the prefectures were piled up like mountains. It was too strange. So when we thought about it, we faintly felt that something was wrong. Just now at the door, I happened to hear the conversation between the Crown Prince and Du Go. So I thought, could it be that the suppression of the Guanlong group has begun?" Li Shimin's expression could not help but abruptly change. He finally understood what was wrong in Chang'an City. It seemed to be thriving, but the goods from Jinla and other countries were basically in the city. Few people transported the goods out. This was absolutely impossible. Which merchant, after getting the goods, didn't sell them all over the world? But now when he thought of Guanlong, Li Shimin's forehead couldn't help but be covered with a fine layer of cold sweat. At this time, Yu Qigong cupped his fists and the armor all over his body clanked. "Your Majesty, I'm going back to Chang'an to report the military situation. But on the way, I also found something wrong. Even the shadow of the Guanlong group, which I rarely saw before, appeared among these people. I think, is the seemingly prosperous business in Chang'an City an illusion created by the Guanlong group? Then, why do you think he did this?" Li Shimin waved his hand and asked. Yu Qigong thought for a while and said with a dignified face, I'm not good at the business skills, but I know military books. There is a saying in military books that if you want to break the morale of the army, you must first destroy its foundation. In other words, rations and fodder. But now, this old official combined with the abnormal situation in Chang'an, this old official feels that this could be deliberately created by the Guanlong group in order to make the emperor consume a huge amount of financial resources in a short period of time, and then carry out. As he spoke, Yu Qigong made a clenching motion with his hand. This scene caused Li Shimon's eyelids to twitch violently. At this moment, Du Ruhui added, even at this moment, the crown prince is patrolling the area in the name of the emperor. Even though he can suppress the Tufan and the Turks, and even intimidate them, this doesn't affect the Guanlong group in the slightest. Perhaps, Guanlong might even think that this is a signal for the emperor to declare war. Therefore, I think that it's not the right time yet. We can't act rashly. If the Guanlong group really wants to suppress us, we have to wait until there is some progress in this matter. Now, we must not act rashly. If we act, it means that we have taken the initiative to launch a counterattack. This will only make the Guanlong group crazily suppress us. They might even join forces with the Tubo and the other countries. Li Shimon was a little shocked. Prime Minister Wei, what do you think about this matter? The current situation was too strange. Even if he thought of it, he couldn't move. This kind of discomfort was like punching cotton. This made Li Shimon feel a little depressed. Resist, no. Not resist, no. What could he do now? Now that he did not even know what the other party was doing, what could he do? Oh right. Zhang Sun Wuji, immediately send out all the people from the Ministry of Justice. They must investigate the situation in Chang'an by tomorrow morning. I want to see if the recent abnormalities in Chang'an are really caused by the Guanlong group suppression. Yu Qigong. Immediately have your personal guards return to the barracks with my rewards. On the way back, make sure to check them carefully. This official obeys. The two of them hurriedly left. Li Qingxian was still standing there. Father, I think that the right way to solve this crisis is to go to the Longxi military camp immediately. Moreover, Brother Zhang Feng also said that only that place is the key to resolving this crisis. No. Li Shimon waved his sleeve. Qing Yaojin. Yes, Your Majesty. I remember that the various regions have been recruiting more than a month ago, right? Qing Yaojin bowed and said, Your Majesty, there are only about 30,000 new recruits in the vicinity of Chang'an City this year. They are currently undergoing urgent training in the military camp outside Chang'an City. Immediately take these tens of thousands of people to Longxi with my orders and create a war for me. When Qing Yaojin heard this, how could he not know what the emperor meant? His eyes flashed and he excitedly clasped his fist. That's great. I haven't fought for a long time. Li Shimon's face darkened. Use your brains before you go to war. Think about how to get the locust eggs out of Longyu. Qing Yaojin slapped his head and said excitedly, I know. After that, everyone left. Only Li Qingxian was still standing there, stiffening his neck. Li Shimon frowned and scolded, don't go for now. Learn more from Zhang Feng during this period of time. Don't get so worked up over such a small matter. What's wrong with you? Li Qingxian pursed his lips and suppressed the urge to go to the military camp. Yes. I'm stupid. Chapter 244. Qing Chumo was very excited. He couldn't remember the poem, but on the way back, he used 10 jars of wine and asked Du Go to write it for him. At this time, it was placed on Qing Yaojin's desk. Looking at the 2 words on the table, Qing Chumo was so excited that his body was still trembling. His excitement caused the entire Qing residence to sink into a tense atmosphere. Now that Qing Yaojin was hurriedly called into the palace by the emperor, they didn't know what would happen. But now, Qing Chumo had come up with such a plan. At this time, even the concubine who came to serve him was scared by his eyes and quickly went to find Shuishi. When Shuishi saw Qing Chumo's appearance, she was shocked. My son, are you suffering from hysteria? When Qing Chimo heard this, he quickly went forward and supported his mother. Mother, I have decided to go to the army camp, like father. Nonsense. Chuisher was shocked. She quickly covered Qing Chimo's mouth. This matter can't be said outside, don't mention it again. Mother. Now, even the crown prince is begging the emperor to go to the battlefield. How can I lose the prestige of our Qing family? I have also decided that you must go to the army camp. No. Before your father hears this, you should just give up on this idea. Otherwise, with your father's temper, you will have to lie in bed for half a year. Chuisher rejected Qing Chimo. His family was a duke, so many people were watching them. This was the case for a family of generals. A family can't have two generals. They all knew about Qing Yaojin's talent. Since young, he was very interested in military books and all kinds of military affairs. If Qing Yaojin wasn't a general or a duke, then he could fight for his future, but if he dared to go to the army camp now, it would bring disaster to the Qing family. How could Chuisher dare to let such a thing happen? Chimo, I know you and I understand you, but this matter is too complicated. I know that you have been wrong these years, but you didn't come back last night, and now you are shouting about going to the battlefield. Are you hysterical? Or are you provoked? If you are bullied, say it, I will help you. My Qing family servants are all veterans who accompanied your father when he retired. Just say the word and this old lady will personally help you get back at them. When Qing Chimo heard this, he was shocked. If this old lady were to find out about Brother Zhang Feng, wouldn't Brother Zhang Feng be doomed? He was a weak person who couldn't even withstand a slap. Thinking of this, Qing Chimo quickly pulled Madame Chui's hand and said, Mother. Mother, look at this. As he spoke, Qing Chimo solemnly opened one of the paintings. Chuisher used to be the daughter of a big family, so she had dabbled in calligraphy and paintings, especially those made by famous masters. These years, if it wasn't for her, this house would have become Qing Yaojin's training ground. Those antique calligraphy and paintings must be used as fuel for the fire. At this moment, Miss Chui was completely stunned when she saw this piece of calligraphy. Drunk, looking at the sword under the lamp, dreaming of blowing the horn at the camp, Chimo, where did you get this poem? Chuisher's face became unusually dignified for the first time. She couldn't help but think of the two paintings in Qing Yaojin's study room. Although the handwriting looked different, it was definitely written by the same person. Qing Chimo saw that his mother was deflated, so he couldn't help but straighten his back. This is my brother Zhang Feng's calligraphy. How is it, mother, with the artistic conception in this painting, do you think that I should go to the battlefield? That's where I should go. What kind of poem can make you two have such expressions? At this moment, Qing Yaojin's loud voice sounded from outside the door. Qing Chimo was excited. He raised the painting and read it to Qing Yaojin. Drunk, looking at the sword under the lamp, dreaming of blowing the horn at the camp, 800 miles under the command of his subordinates, 50 bowstrings sound beyond the Great Wall, the autumn soldiers on the battlefield. The horse moves quickly, the bow is like thunder, the string is frightening. Accomplishing the affairs of the world, winning fame in life and behind. Pitiful for nothing. Father, how is this poem? Qing Yaojin glanced at Qing Chimo indifferently. This was made by Zhang Feng? That's right. Father, I went to the tavern with Qing Xian and the others yesterday. We were all bowed down to brother Zhang Feng's talent, so perhaps Qing Xian, Zhang Sun Chong, and the others are thinking of a way to go to the military camp right now. Qing Yaojin heard this and stroked his beard. No one could see any change in his expression. His Majesty knows about this. His Majesty's intention is for all of you to stay obediently for Lao Tzu and learn more useful things from Zhang Feng. The Crown Prince was blocked, but you? Do you think you're worthy of going to the battlefield? You haven't embarrassed Lao Tzu enough. Get out of here. Take advantage of the fact that Lao Tzu hasn't gotten angry yet. The excitement in Qing Chimo's eyes slowly disappeared. However, when he heard that the Crown Prince couldn't go, and when he heard his father's words, he hurriedly ran away. When Qing Chimo ran away, Qing Yaojin's expression immediately became excited. "Madam, hurry, hurry and read the words for me again." Old man is so excited that he can't stand up. Chapter 245. In a tea house next to the Jinshui Bridge in Chang'an City. Although it was noon and the place was usually crowded with customers, it was quiet at the moment. Burly men surrounded the tea house so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. If anyone dared to come close, they would invite them to take a cold bath in the Jinshui River for free. On the second floor of the tea house, a few spoiled brats sat dejectedly at the tea table and sighed. "Say something, Qingxian. If you can't think of a way, our chance to bring glory to our ancestors is gone." "That's right. My legs were almost broken by my father. If Tainyo had come in time, my father would probably have broken my leg by now." Wei Shuyu was depressed to the extreme. He even politely read the 2 poems to his father. When he saw his father writing, he said what he wanted to say the most. However, what welcomed him was the inkstone that his father loved so much. Thinking about it now, Wei Shuyu's legs were shaking. If he didn't want to go, so be it. Did he have to be so angry and chase him all over the courtyard? Sigh. Did you see Zhang Sunchong? His house is so close to here, why hasn't he come yet? Du Go asked doubtfully. Du Go had been covering his face the whole time. Now that he turned around, everyone finally understood why he was covering his face. This grandson had also been beaten up. As for who beat him up, don't even think about it. Other than Du Ruhui, who else could it be? Li Qingxian waved his hand and said, "We're not waiting anymore. Even if Chong Zi isn't dead, he'll lose a layer of skin. He won't be coming today. Let me tell my father's intentions first." When everyone heard that, they hurriedly held their breaths. "I've already told my father about our situation. My father's intention is that we are not allowed to go to the battlefield. I think this matter has something to do with Guanlong. If they know that the Crown Prince personally went to the barracks, it might anger the Guanlong group. My father's intention is to let us continue to stay in Chang'an and learn from Zhang Feng." When everyone heard that, they couldn't help but sigh. Since the emperor had said so, they really didn't have any chance at all. If the emperor opened his mouth and allowed Li Qingxian to go to Longyu, then they could use the identity of the crown prince's bodyguards to mix and mingle in the military camp. If they could get a little bit of military merit at the border, that would be even better. But now... Hee. Even the emperor was terrified. And from the looks of it, this matter seems to be even more serious. Just like what brother Zhang Feng said, it seems that the emperor is really not prepared for this matter at all. What should we do? Qingxian, should we intervene in this matter? If we take action, I believe that everything in Chang'an City will be revealed sooner. In the end, Qing Chimo couldn't stay idle. Everything was caused by this matter. If this matter was resolved, did it mean that they could go to the border battlefield? Qing Chimo's blood was boiling as he thought about the possibility of war with Tubo, the Turkic Khaganate, and the distant India in the future. No. Li Qingxian shook his head. We don't know how Imperial Father will deal with this matter. If we investigate on our own, we'll probably hinder Imperial Father's plans. So. Then we're just going to watch? Qin Chimo was anxious. No. Let's just pretend that this matter didn't happen. Let's do as Imperial Father said and go to Zhang Feng's little tavern first to learn his mysterious ability. If we learn it, then we'll benefit greatly for the rest of our lives. I agree with Qingxian. This time, Du Go didn't nag, but he agreed with Li Qingxian's decision. At this moment, there was a flurry of footsteps. Zhang Sun, with a bloody nose and a swollen face, was carried over. Originally, Zhang Sun was still a little embarrassed, but when he saw the palm print on Du Go's face and the bruise on Wei Shuyu's nose, he instantly understood what had happened. Damn, brothers, why are you all fine? I was beaten up badly by my old man. Hearing this, Du Go pointed at Wei Shuyu. He was almost beaten to death by his father. If not for Ching Chumo, his legs would probably be broken by now. But, to be honest, Ching Chumo, why are you fine? Du Go quickly reacted and asked. Ching Chumo puffed up his chest. My father is wise and powerful, how could he, scram? Your father is wise and powerful? Wei Shuyu exploded. Shi and Zhang Sun roared at the two of them in disdain. At this moment, Du Go said mysteriously, I remember now, it's the poem I wrote for you about brother Zhang Feng. Stop talking. Brother, don't talk anymore. Ching Chumo was anxious. Only then did everyone come to a realization. If I knew earlier, why didn't I prepare in advance? This was really a case of being too smart for your own good. If the silly Ching Chumo could think of this, how could they not? No, for the sake of their future happiness, they had to ask brother Zhang Feng for 180 fortune characters. This thing was a life-saving talisman. Let's go. Brothers, let's go find brother Zhang Feng. Didn't our father say to go find him to play? Go go go. What are we waiting for? Under Zhang Xuan's urging, everyone could not help but slap their heads and hurriedly get up and leave. Chapter 246. Zhang Feng was depressed. He was extremely depressed. Staring at the big pile of tiger meat on the salted water pot, he felt a headache coming on. He wanted to give it away, but no one dared to take it. Although the meat was good, obviously, as a slave, no one deserved to eat it. Just one sentence. No one deserved it. That gave Zhang Feng a headache. This group of idiots, they were really the bullies of Cheng and City. They had already thought of this point. If it weren't for the fact that he had sworn to give the tiger's innards and penis to the old Xiucai, Zhuzi monkey, and old he, the army of flies would have made Zhang Feng have the urge to move out of his house. He had said that when he left, each of them would take a piece. Well, they all ran away. Zhang Feng fiddled with the 4 tiger claws and went to the medicine store to buy some herbs to make a big jar of tiger bone wine. But what should he do with the rest of the meat? The meat was very astringent and dry. If he made it into jerky, it would be like chewing tree roots. But if he didn't deal with it, he couldn't just let the meat rot, right? Zhang Feng had a headache. He lowered his head and put the firewood under the pot, letting the boiling salt water in the pot smoke the tiger meat. And at that moment, a few small heads carefully poked in through the curtain of the backyard. It was Guzzi and the others. They were looking at the meat on the pot and swallowing their saliva. Guzzi. What are you doing? At that moment, the old scholar's angry voice sounded behind them. They were so scared that they wanted to run away. At that moment, Zhang Feng also heard the voice. He hurriedly turned his head and his eyes lit up. Guzzi. Come here, do you want to eat tiger meat? Just one sentence. Guzzi and the others were rooted to the ground. The old scholar glared at Zhang Feng, exasperated at his failure to live up to his expectations. You. It seems that you really want to spoil them. Zhang Feng chuckled. Isn't it because the meat will spoil if they don't eat it? Come. Old elementary scholar, you came just in time. I just made a big pot of tiger bone soup and was thinking of sending it over to you. Since you're here, let's have a drink or two. You. The old elementary scholar sighed and waved his hand. He fished out a bag of snacks from within his robes. He had originally intended to give it to Zhang Feng as thanks for his tiger penis, but now he had given it to these children. Seeing the children timidly snatch the packets of snacks from the old scholar's hands and play around in the small courtyard, the old scholar's eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of kindness as he looked at the children. He had no children. He didn't even have any relatives. He had lived his entire life in fear, not daring to do anything. The only reason he dared to walk out of the house he had left and onto the streets was because of his courage. On one hand, it was because he was poor and needed to eat. More importantly, he wanted to see this group of children. These children represented vitality. He always felt that a person's house was no different from a grave. Old Shiozai, what's wrong? Did he miss her? Sometimes I think that since you're so talented and knowledgeable, why don't you teach these children how to read? If that's the case, If that's the case, don't say it again. Before Zhang Feng could finish, the old scholar had already interrupted him. Are you trying to send this old man and this group of children to their deaths? If I really did that, the Imperial College would be the first to come after me. Do you think that knowledge is something that anyone can do? Can anyone teach others? Zhang Feng pursed his lips. Then tell me, among these people, some of them can read a little. Didn't they become apprentices in the neighborhood? Don't tell me you want your stomach full of knowledge to be buried just like that? The old scholar shook his head bitterly. Fengzi, pour me a bowl of wine. Zhang Feng knew the old scholar's current situation. He got up and scooped out a big bowl of bone soup from the pot. He ordered the lackey and the others to wash their hands and then filled the bowl himself. Then, he cut a big piece of cooked tiger meat from the steaming pot, seasoned it, and put it on the small table. After that, he took a jar of 35% low-alcohol wine and poured a bowl for old Shiozai. The meat was very fresh and salty. The old scholar ate a piece, curled his lips, and drank the wine. Fengzi, you know my identity. Do you think that with my identity, the emperor and the laws of the Tang dynasty will allow me to teach and take in disciples? What's the difference between this and rebellion? Well, Zhang Feng fell silent. He had been thinking about finding an opportunity to tell old Shiozai to open a private school. On the one hand, it could let the lackey and the children of the slaves gain more knowledge. On the other hand, it could also let old Shiozai not be so lonely. It was a kind of suffering where one had a lot of skills but no place to show them. He understood. To put it bluntly, he and the old scholar were the same kind of people. However, he still forgot the laws of this era. Zhang Feng sighed deeply. Just you wait, old scholar. One day, I will let you stand in front of the private school with your head held high, and let these kids call you teacher with respect. How can you leave me out of this matter? Yes. Brother Zhang Feng. And us. How about we teach these children too? Chapter 247. Along with the voice. Go, Zi and Zhu. Zi stopped making noise and stood timidly in the corner. They looked at the people who were dressed so extravagantly in fear. They knew these people. Their parents had warned them not to offend these people. These were the bullies of Cheng and city. They even dared to kill the tiger of the emperor's imperial plantation. They should never offend such people. They had to run as far as they could. At this time, Zhang Feng also saw the people who had left and returned. The old scholar sighed, clasped his hands and walked away unsteadily. When he left, he took Zhang Feng's jar of wine and the big bowl of meat soup with him. Zhang Feng didn't care. These were for the old scholar. You guys, why did you come back? Zhang Feng rolled his eyes. I thought you had gone to Longyu. Zhang Feng waved his hand and took out 2 tiger hind legs from the pot. He put them on a bamboo rake and handed them to Guzi to share. Then he looked speechlessly at Qing Chumo and the others who were holding a jar of wine. Isn't it because our father doesn't want us to go? We are tired of Cheng and city. You are the best. So, haha. Get out of here. Zhang Feng rolled his eyes. Are you addicted to eating for free? Of course not. What do you want us to do? We promise you we will do a good job. Qing Chumo said directly. Zhang Feng's eyes were wide open. Do these guys mean they are going to stay here? I can't even drive them away. Zhang Feng didn't believe it and said, then you go chop firewood for me. I want you to fill up the yard by tonight. Qing Chumo looked at Zhang Feng strangely and asked, are you sure? Yes. Okay. Deal. Qing Chumo casually agreed, took a sip of wine, and went out with the wine jug in his arms. Zhang Feng's eyes were wide open. Li Qingxian smiled faintly and said, Brother Zhang Feng, don't struggle. We came this time because we were chased out by our father and have nowhere to go. Moreover, we were also attracted by your miraculous cooking and drinking skills. So, don't waste your time. Just tell me, what else do you want to do? I guarantee that all of them will satisfy you as soon as possible. Zhang Feng was completely dumbfounded. What the hell? Okay. You don't leave. You do. Go and fetch water for me, from the ancient well outside the city. Look, all 10 vats in this courtyard are filled to the brim. Before it's too dark. Idiot Wei. Wei Shuyu's face darkened when she heard that. My name is Wei Yu. Bathroom? Damn, this name, Zhang Feng was stunned. He was almost led astray by Wei Shuyu. They went to the front hall. Clean up the front hall for me. Don't leave a speck of dust. And you, Zhang Feng pointed at Li Qingxian. He thought for a while. There was really nothing to do now. But when he saw the meat on the pot, he smiled. Before the sky turns dark, steam the meat for me. Then cut it into 2 long strips. Okay. Li Qingxian smiled, cupped his hands, and went to the backyard. Zhang Feng was a little confused. Why wasn't this according to the plot? Damn it. Is there a problem somewhere? Zhang Feng couldn't figure it out, but looking at the setting sun, he took out 2 buckets, scooped the broth from the pot into the buckets, and carried them out of the door. He wanted to distribute the broth and bone broth to the neighbors before the sky turned dark. This was a good thing. He couldn't finish it all by himself. It was better to share it with the neighbors and let them have a taste. Tiger bone broth was a very rare thing even in the Tang dynasty. Today, thanks to the Empress, he would let everyone have a taste of this thing. A ladle of soup was delivered for more than 2 hours. Then, it was filled to the brim with treasures that each family was reluctant to eat. She brought it back for him. But when he came back, he was stunned. In the tavern's hall, all the tables and chairs were replaced with mahogany furniture. Even the counter was replaced with the most popular thing with a baffle that could open and close. This thing even came with a secret drawer. Zhang Feng wanted to buy it, but it cost 300 strings of string of coins. Zhang Feng touched the silver ingot in his arms and decided not to buy it. But now, this thing was placed neatly in the hall with the priceless mahogany tables and chairs. How could Zhang Feng not feel dizzy? What's going on? Did I come to the wrong door? Zhang Feng asked as he looked at Xing Chimo and the others sitting in the hall, each holding a big bowl of tiger bone broth and gnawing on a big lump of meat. When Zhang Feng's voice fell, everyone burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. Li Gan, you lost, didn't you? Come, bring the money. 10 taels per person. Don't go back on your word. Zhang Feng was speechless. On the other hand, there was not a single speck of dust on the floor and the plaque above the tavern counter that said, honest to all. He didn't know how Wei Shuyu did it. But looking at the money bags in their hands, Zhang Feng seemed to understand something. This group of bastards had used money to settle all the difficulties he had created for him. Chapter 248. Without looking at the backyard, Zhang Feng knew that if Chen Tiniu couldn't even handle this matter properly, he wouldn't be sitting here so comfortably. Zhang Feng simply threw the bucket away. He sat at the table, grabbed a piece of pork rib, and started chewing. Brother, aren't you going to the backyard to take a look? Go where? Go and be abused. Do you think you're so great just because you're rich? Zhang Feng said sulkily. Everyone burst into laughter. Brother Zhang Feng, we've been sneaky in this matter, but you know, which one of us is made for work. So. You're a magnanimous person, so why don't you teach us your true abilities? Hey. Damn it, do you think stealing knowledge is something to be proud of? Zhang Feng laughed when he heard that. It's not impossible to teach you. But there's a problem. Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard Zhang Feng say that there was a chance. Tell us. Everyone said in unison. Zhang Feng thought for a moment, then pretended to be serious and said, the things I know are very complicated, but to you, they're all at the level of the Kuei treasure, such as the ability to control the entire situation. Li Gan, do you want it? Yes. Li Qingxian cupped his fists excitedly and was about to get up to bow to his master, but he was stopped by Zhang Feng with a wave of his hand. Then he said, Du Dabing, you want my knowledge, don't you? Especially the understanding of poetry, literature, Confucianism, and Taoism, right? Indeed. I really can't sleep and eat well because of this. I hope that brother Zhang Feng can. Wait. Zhang Feng asked again, the three of you, needless to say, are definitely made for martial arts. I have a peerless martial arts manual here. If you don't, this thing, if it's completed, although it won't make you invulnerable on the battlefield, just its ability alone will allow you to complete at least 100 kills in a short 3 years of practice. Passing through tens of thousands of troops and taking the enemy's head casually, you don't want such an ability. Yes. Motherf ***, stop wasting time. As long as you're willing to teach me, Lao Tzu will even give you his life. The eyes of Ching Chumo and the others turned red. They clenched their fists so tightly that they made popping sounds. However, at this moment, Zhang Feng smiled slyly. Everyone was so angry that they wanted to beat him up. Zhang Feng placed his hands behind his back and slowly paced around the hall. I'll teach you. That's impossible. Go back first, pick an auspicious day, bring gifts, and come to me. Otherwise, I won't teach you. Oh, by the way, let me mention this. Zhang Feng said as he set off another bomb. Wei Yu is agile, suitable for long-distance raids and assassinations. Tai Niu is suitable for tanks, that is, heavy infantry or cavalry. As for Buggy, I have calculated that you are suitable for light cavalry, the kind that can travel thousands of miles alone. What do you think? Yes. F***CK, brother Zhang Feng, you're a god. You can even calculate that? Come. Brother Zhang Feng, take a look at me. What path is suitable for me? Dugo was so anxious that his eyes turned red. They had never told Zhang Feng about these things, and Ching Chumo was a reckless man. Thinking about it carefully, this heavy armor was indeed suitable for him to charge around recklessly. Zhang Sun Chong was also the same. Riding alone for thousands of miles, his idol was Zhao Zilong, and he was walking on his own path. As for Wei Shuyu, everyone really didn't know what path he was suitable for. But now that they heard it, it seemed to be the case. Du Go and Li Qingxian couldn't sit still anymore. Zhang Feng pretended to be sleepy and rubbed his shoulders as if his whole body was uncomfortable. The stubborn people were so anxious that they hurriedly invited him to sit on a stool. Then, they massaged his arms and legs. After a while, Zhang Feng said, Big Pie, if you want to do business, then start with mathematics. I have a field that you have never touched before. If you can learn this, even if you have to manage all the merchants in the world, you will be able to do it with ease. In fact, don't we have a cooperative now? As long as you learn quickly, when the emperor is happy, it won't be a problem to make you the Minister of Works. Minister of Works? Minister of Works before the age of 30? Was it possible? Others might think it was impossible, but for Zhang Feng, based on the ability he had shown before, everyone believed that he could definitely train Du Go. And now, it was Li Qingxian's turn. Li Qingxian couldn't help but worry. He didn't know how Zhang Feng would arrange for him, but he was also looking forward to it. To others, he might only talk about one aspect, but what about him? Zhang Feng said that he was suitable for governing. Could it be that he really wants to teach me the secret of controlling the entire situation? Li Qingxian's heart couldn't help but beat wildly. Finally, he understood why his father had sent him to learn more from Zhang Feng. This, just like the plan for Tubo and other countries. Who would have thought of this plan? Who would dare to think this way? And the cooperative now. Who would dare to do this? At this moment, Dugo, Wei Shuyu, and the rest couldn't help but stand up. Their eyes were fixed on Zhang Feng, who was really narrowing his eyes. They wanted to see what he would teach Li Qingxian. But after waiting for a while, Zhang Feng said, "As for you, the path I am going to teach you is very difficult. Do you want to learn it? Learn." Chapter 249. How could Li Qingxian not learn it? Everyone wanted to learn that ability, right? Moreover, it was rumored to be Mr. Kongming's teacher. Although he knew that Zhang Feng was bragging, it would be crucial for the future of the Tang dynasty if he could learn how to strategize for the neighboring countries. It would even be impossible to expand the territory of the Tang dynasty by more than half. How could Li Qingxian not want to learn it? At that moment, Dugo, Zhang Sun, and the others were also shocked. They wanted that kind of ability as well. However, they also knew that they were not worthy of it. They were not worthy of learning it. However, although they were not worthy of learning it, they could at least listen to it, right? Qing Chimo rubbed his hands and said with a smile, "Brother Zhang Feng, can you tell us first, what exactly did you teach Li Gan? Let us brothers broaden our horizons." "That's right, Brother Zhang Feng. Why don't you tell us about it? Although we can't learn it, we can at least learn a little." "Brother Zhang Feng. You." Li Qingxian also stood up excitedly and prepared to bow to him. Zhang Feng waved his hand. "Hey! What are you doing? I haven't accepted you as my disciple yet. Put away your tricks. It's not easy to learn my ability. You have to think carefully." Zhang Feng narrowed his eyes and enjoyed the treatment. He was indeed bragging, but he really had the ability to train these people to be a level better than the current people. That was a must. After all, he had experienced military training in university for a few years. Coupled with his own combination of some things from the Tang dynasty, he would tire this group of fools to death. They had nowhere to expend their energy, right? "Then I'll do it for you." As for dating, that was easy. The elementary school physics and arithmetic problems were enough for him to study for a lifetime. As for Li Gan, that was a little more difficult. But who was he? He was Zhang Feng. How could that be difficult for him? All right. Since you're so eager, I'll tell you something first. Do you know about the 9 transformations, 8 trigrams? Li Qingxian frowned and thought for a moment. Yes, I know. I've heard that the crown prince is following Yuan Tiangang, the number 1 genius of the Tang dynasty. He's a master of martial arts. There was really such a person as Yuan Tiangang. Zhang Feng thought for a moment and said, "That's right. Yuan Tiangang is indeed quite capable. However, he knows at least the Book of Changes. As for the mysterious Book of Changes, go and ask him if he knows anything about it." Strange scriptures? Li Qingxian was shocked. For so many years, he had been learning from Yuan Tiangang, but he had never heard of any extraordinary scriptures. Could it be that everything Zhang Feng said was because of the mystic scripture? This ancient book was rumored to be a priceless treasure. Whoever could obtain it would obtain the world. In the past, the first emperor was able to unify the 6 nations and accomplish an unprecedented feat because he had obtained the mysterious scripture. He even called himself the emperor. Although this secret wasn't in the history books, there were many records of it in the royal family's secrets. At this moment, Zhang Feng actually said that it was an extraordinary book. Could it be, he had really mastered the extraordinary book? Li Qingxian was shocked. Dugo was shocked. Qing Chimo scratched his head with a puzzled expression. He exchanged glances with Zhang Sun and Wei Shuyu. Their eyes were full of confusion. Excuse me. What is this extraordinary scripture? Qing Chimo finally looked at Zhang Feng and asked. Zhang Feng smiled mysteriously. Only ghosts would know what an extraordinary scripture was. He was just bragging according to the novels he had read in his previous life. As for the existence of an extraordinary scripture, he disdained it. If such a thing really existed in the world, would Huaxia have been reduced to such a state thousands of years later? Zhang Feng yawned and waved his hand. All right, it's getting late. Go and think about it carefully. If you've made up your mind, choose an auspicious day and come back with your gifts. Seeing Zhang Feng chasing them away, they weren't angry. Even Li Qingxian bowed even more respectfully than before. He bowed with sincerity and said, then we won't disturb brother Zhang Feng anymore. We'll come again another day. However, I have a presumptuous request. Brother Zhang Feng, it's better to keep this extraordinary scripture a secret. If it gets out, even the current emperor can't protect you. What did he mean? Zhang Feng was confused. Hey, don't go. Tell me clearly before you go. Is there really such a thing? Zhang Feng sat up, but Li Qingxian and the others had already disappeared into the night. It's over. F***ck. Zhang Feng wished he could give himself a few tight slaps on the face. This stupid mouth. F***ck. If you don't F***king say anything, why did you talk about an extraordinary scripture in the Tang dynasty when superstition was at its peak and in front of that old faker Yuan Tiangang? F***ck. It's over. This time I'm really in trouble. In the history books, he just remembered how many absurd things Yuan Tiangang had done in order to get the extraordinary scripture. F***ck, could it be that this extraordinary scripture really existed? It's over. Where would Lao Tzu get the extraordinary scripture for you? Zhang Feng wanted to cry at this time. This was really, casually bragging. Now he couldn't take it back even if he wanted to. He didn't know how many lies he would have to make up for this thing in the end, alas. Lao Tzu's mouth. Despicable. Chapter 250. Li Qingxian excitedly rushed back to the Eastern Palace. He didn't even have time to change his clothes before he rushed to Taiji Palace. As soon as he entered, he saw Li Shimin sitting in front of the desk with one hand on his forehead, thinking about something. Li Qingxian quietly dismissed all the palace maids and eunuchs, then personally dismissed all the guards outside the door. Only then did he cautiously walk in front of Li Shimin. Li Shimin was a little confused. But after seeing Li Qingxian's gesture of silence, he patiently waited to see what Li Qingxian wanted to do. He saw Li Qingxian write the words, extraordinary scripture, on the paper. Li Shimin's eyes involuntarily narrowed. Come with me. Li Shimin's body exploded with an intimidating aura. He stood up and said in a low voice. Then, as if he was still worried, he ordered, Little Gizi. Your servant is here. Without my permission, no one is allowed to enter the imperial study. Violators will be beheaded. I have something to discuss with the crown prince. As you command. After giving his orders, Li Shimin lightly knocked twice on a luminous pearl and laid on the back of the dragon throne. Then, with a twist, the luminous pearl was knocked out. Then, at this moment, a dark, bottomless hole appeared on the floor below the dragon throne. Li Shimin took out 2 oil lamps from the bookshelf, handed one to Li Qingxian, and held the other for himself. Then, he cautiously walked down the vertical secret passage. The secret passage wasn't wide and could only accommodate one person going down at the same time. When the two of them had walked about 15 steps, Li Shimin lit an oil lamp on the wall. Then, he pressed a protrusion on the side of the lamp, and the secret passage above them was covered again. So far, Li Shimin had not said a single word, and Li Qingxian had not said a single word. Li Qingxian was very shocked, but after thinking about it, he felt relieved. Who didn't have some secrets? What more his father? The two of them walked along the ice-cold steps. After about the time it took to brew a cup of tea, they arrived at a huge underground palace. The interior of the underground palace was luxuriously decorated, but there wasn't even a speck of dust on it. Clearly, Li Shimin often came to this underground palace. Furthermore, this underground palace was filled with bookshelves. Looking carefully, Li Qingxian was shocked. The books on it were all forbidden books of the Tang dynasty. There were even classical stories from the previous dynasty, and so on. For example, there were many Taoist classics and authentic manuscripts of Confucius. Regarding this, Li Qingxian did not find it strange. On the contrary, if Imperial Father did not have this place, then it would really be strange. Qingxian, tell me in detail. What exactly is this extraordinary scripture? Li Shimin asked as he sat on a soft couch. He waved his hand, indicating for Li Qingxian to sit down as well. Only then did Li Qingxian say, Imperial Father, today Zhang Feng agreed to take us as disciples. He also said that he can make Xing Chumo into a heavy armored cavalry that can be defeated by anyone. He can also make Zhang Sun into a warrior who can ride alone for 1,000 miles and take the head of a general in the midst of 1,000,000 soldiers. He can also make Wei Shuyu practice that supreme assassination technique that can come and go without a trace. Du Go can even make him master the art of arithmetic that can control the wealth of the world. As for me... Li Qingxian paused, then said with a burning gaze, he said that he will make me master the extraordinary scripture that even Mr. Yuan Tiangang did not master. I found out from his words that he was able to control the layout of the countries around the Tang dynasty because of the extraordinary scripture. That's why I hurriedly returned. On one hand, Brother Zhang Feng wanted us to prepare the ceremony for becoming his disciple. On the other hand, I wanted to talk to Imperial Father about this matter. After all, whether it's us, the 5 clans and 7 hopes, or even outsiders, we are all looking for the extraordinary scripture. Was there really an extraordinary scripture? Li Shimin had always been disdainful of these things. But now, he couldn't help but feel a little confused. He never believed that there were demons, ghosts, and gods in the world. But now, he learned about the extraordinary scripture. Moreover, this was a secret that only the royal family knew. How did Zhang Feng know about it? Was he really an old monster who had cultivated for 5,000 years? But when he thought about it, he felt that it was impossible. If he really had such great ability, how could he not know his identity? But how could he explain the current situation? Li Shimin couldn't figure it out, but he definitely didn't believe that Zhang Feng was an old monster who had lived for 5,000 years. As for this extraordinary scripture, did it really exist in ancient legends? Li Shimin didn't believe it. But Zhang Feng's ability, from the art of making salt to the strange cooking and brewing methods, and what he said about some of the things that were being implemented in the Tang dynasty, were all things that had never been done before and would never be done in the future. How could these be explained? Li Shimin couldn't figure it out. He couldn't figure it out either. Sigh. Li Shimin couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. He waved his hand and motioned to Li Qingxian. Don't mention this to anyone. Have you warned Xing Chumo and the others about the consequences if they don't keep their mouths shut? Li Shimin's eyes flashed with killing intent. This killing intent made Li Qingxian feel a deep sense of fear. I've already warned them about this matter. I think they won't dare to be careless in this matter. Li Shimin heard that and breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. We also don't want to commit more killings, but if this matter were to spread, the Great Tang would definitely face a calamity of destruction. Remember, it's better to kill 1,000 by mistake than to let this matter spread. Li Qingxian hurriedly got up. I understand. You may leave. Remember, learn well from Brother Zhang Feng. Every night, I want you to learn everything you hear, think, and learn that day. Yes, Your Majesty. Chapter 251. Qing Mansion. The lights had already illuminated the huge Qing Mansion. As for Qing Yaojin, he was still sitting in the hall. His calloused hands were twirling the words. There were even tears in Qing Yaojin's eyes, which were full of vicissitudes of life. He had been in this position for the whole day. Ever since he saw this calligraphy, he had been staring at it in a daze. He was very grateful that the emperor had once ordered him to learn how to read. If he couldn't learn in half a year, he would have to retire and return to his hometown. Although this was the emperor's angry words at that time. But now that she thought about it, she remembered how crazy the emperor was when he saw her painting that didn't resemble her at all. In half a year, even if he had worked hard to learn, although he couldn't write much, at least he could understand it. At this time, thinking about the emperor's painstaking efforts, Qing Yaojin was now flustered. If anyone dared to take out those things and show them in front of him, he would definitely beat that person up on the spot. Even if it was in the imperial court, he wouldn't hesitate. He thought that he wanted to get rid of the bad reputation of illiteracy. When he received the calligraphy of the Zhang Feng brothers, he was infinitely emotional, but he wouldn't lose his composure. But today, he was deeply touched by the calligraphy of the Zhang Feng brothers, written by Du Go. The scenes on the battlefield made Qing Yaojin feel infinitely sad. Most of the brothers who had laughed and cried with him were now buried in the cold soil. Many of them didn't even leave behind a name. But who could remember them? Other than in their dreams, who would remember that they had once sacrificed everything for the great Tang on the battlefield? Erniu, Gosheng, I, old Niu, miss you. Are you doing well in that place? Sob, sob, sob. I actually forgot what your real names are. No. Just you wait, brother, I will go and beg the emperor. I will erect a monument for you. Let the future generations revere you and remember your glorious achievements. While speaking, Qing Yaojin wiped the tears from his face and hurriedly put on his armor to enter the palace. However, he was bumped into by Qing Chumo, who was walking in. What are you doing? Qing Yaojin was furious. He shouted angrily. Father, I have something to tell you. Qing Chumo was startled by Qing Yaojin's red eyes, and hurriedly said. If you have something to say, then say it. Lao Tzu is going to the palace to settle accounts with the emperor. Qing Yaojin urged impatiently. When Qing Chumo heard this, his head started spinning. Settle accounts with the emperor? What kind of account was this? Wait, father, I have something to tell you. Today, I went to the tavern again with the crown prince and the others. This time, I discovered a big problem. Hearing this, Qing Yaojin was no longer anxious. He asked, what's the big problem? Qing Chumo said mysteriously, today, when I went to the tavern, guess what brother Zhang Feng said? Qing Yaojin was so angry that he slapped Qing Chumo's forehead. Qing Chumo shrunk his neck and said calmly, today, brother Zhang Feng promised to teach us. Moreover, he plans to teach differently for each individual. For me, he plans to teach me the path of heavy cavalry, while Zhang Sun Chang's path is to travel 1,000 miles on a single horse and take the head of the defending general with 10,000 troops. Do you know that bastard Wei Shuyu? Damn, brother Zhang Feng is going to teach him the way of assassination. Why didn't he teach me this? When Qing Yaojin heard this, he was shocked. You? With that bull strength of yours, would you be able to be a light horse? I think brother Zhang Feng's arrangement is good. But, this guy still wants you to sign a contract with the army. Qing Yaojin could not understand Zhang Feng. Why was he so determined to let these children join the army? What was the benefit? However, Qing Yaojin believed that the crown prince had told the emperor about this, but the emperor did not object. It could be said that he acquiesced. So, how would the emperor arrange this? What about Du Go, the crown prince, and brother Zhang Feng? Qing Yaojin waved his hand, and instantly, the retired soldiers quickly dispersed. He then closed the door and asked. Qing Chumo was smart enough to quickly write down Du Go's arrangement. Qing Yaojin was shocked. Was the crown prince planning to hand over all the money in the world to him? Qing Yaojin knew how terrifying a master of mathematics was. This kind of complicated thing was the private collection of the 7 kings of the 5 families. It was also because of this that the 7 kings of the 5 families were able to stand for so many years. If the 7 kings of the 5 families knew about this. Even if Du Go was hiding by the emperor's side, the 7 kings of the 5 families would spare no effort to assassinate him. He would rather die than live in dishonor for this kind of thing. Zhang Feng. Why did you make such an arrangement? What do you want to do? Qing Yaojin could not figure it out, but fortunately, he did not want to think about it. He knew that Du Ruhui was really troubled now. He asked hurriedly. What about the crown prince? Qing Chumo took a deep breath. At this time, he did not dare to write with ink. He dipped his finger in the water in Qing Yaojin's teacup, and then quickly wrote 2 words on the table. Then, he quickly wiped it clean. Qing Yaojin, on the other hand, was so shocked that his face suddenly changed. Quickly bring me the old man's armor. The old man wants to enter the palace. Chapter 252. Imperial Palace. In the study of Taiji Palace. It was already night time. However, Li Shimin seemed to know that Wei Zheng and the others would definitely come to the palace at night, so he was already seated on the dragon throne waiting for them. He had even informed them that if these people wanted to enter the imperial city, they were not allowed to obstruct the tribulation. He had already made up his mind. If these people did not come, he would not hesitate to use an iron-blooded method that he had not used in a long time to let these people know that this matter was very serious. Tonight was destined to be an eventful night. Just as Li Shimin was drinking his 3rd cup of tea, Xiao Gizi hurried over to reporting to your majesty, Duke Lu, Duke Xiao, Duke Sheng, and the others are outside requesting an audience. Summon them. Li Shimin finally let go of the last worry in his heart. He did not want to commit any more killings. Especially now. He did not trust many people in the imperial court, and these people were the ones he valued the most. He was very worried that these people would betray him. However, it seemed that he could now take in the Jinwu guards. With a wave of his hand, a person in the shadows hurriedly left. At this moment, a few people dressed in court attire and holding white jade tablets hurriedly entered the imperial study. Qing Yaojin even put on the armor that he had not worn for a long time. Furthermore, it was the armor that had accompanied Li Shimin for many years. A smile flashed across Li Shimin's lips when he saw this. He waved his hand to indicate that everyone did not need to be so reserved. We are very gratified that my beloved official could come tonight. Come. Don't be so courteous. This is not the political announcement hall, so relax a little. At this moment, everyone heaved a deep sigh of relief when they saw the smile on Li Shimin's lips. These people were no longer noobs. It could be said that they were a group of old foxes. After seeing Li Shimin's reaction, everyone complied with Li Shimin's wishes and sat down. We are very gratified tonight. Being able to see the few of you, this Zhen is really relieved. Previously, when I heard that child Qingxian talk about brother Zhang Feng, we were a bit worried. I also knew that you might come. That's why I've been worried ever since I received the news. What do you think we should do about this? Li Shimin smiled faintly. Everyone stood up again. At this time, although Li Shimin was expressing his loyalty, everyone was not stupid. The more it was like this, the more they had to be careful. Because, often at this time, their heads had already been lifted by the emperor. Emperor. We are slow-witted, but we also know that this matter is not something that we can decide. Therefore, when we learned of this matter, we immediately locked up our unfilial sons and rushed to the palace to seek an audience with your majesty. As he spoke, everyone knelt down. Please punish me, your majesty. Regardless of the consequences, if he admitted his guilt now, he could save his life. Sure enough, after Li Shimin heard this, the expression on his face finally relaxed. My beloved subjects, you may all rise. We have already said that this is not the imperial court. This is a place for us old fellows to chat, so there is no need to be reserved. Servants, come. Serve tea. As Li Shimin spoke, he stood up and waited for the palace maids to serve tea. He helped everyone up one by one and handed out cups of tea to everyone. At this time, he waved his hand to dismiss the palace maids and the imperial guards who were secretly guarding every corner of the imperial study. Then, he said with a smile, we really don't know what to do about this matter. Official Cheng, tell me about Chimo, Chong, and the others. should we go? This, Qing Yaojin's eyelids twitched imperceptibly. Your Majesty, I am slow-witted. I will listen to whatever you say. If that brat of mine makes your Majesty unhappy, I will go back now and bring him to you. Hey! How can you speak like that? When Li Shimin saw that Qing Yaojin did not accept his words and even said such words, he could only wave his hand to have him sit down. Then, he looked at Wei Zheng. Prime Minister Wei, you speak. This matter is giving us a headache. This, Wei Zheng hesitated. Having two outstanding talents in the same family had already crossed the emperor's reverse scale. However, the emperor pitied Wei Shuyu and sent her to the imperial guards. On one hand, it was to give his family a little income, but more importantly, it was to keep an eye on Wei Shuyu. But now? Brother Zhang Feng had given everyone a difficult problem. Wei Zheng gritted his teeth, got up, and knelt on the ground. Your Majesty, this old subject is slow-witted and unknowingly allowed Shuyu to commit such a crime. This subject is willing to accept the punishment and retire to his hometown. This subject is also willing to retire to his hometown and clear his name. Zhang Sun Wuji and the others also hurriedly knelt and begged for mercy. Li Shimin shook his head. With his hands behind his back, as if he could not see everyone, he said, Wuji, I remember that when we were about the same age as Chong, and the others, we were already famous on the battlefield, right? I remember that at that time, sigh. We are all old. Your Majesty is in the prime of his life. How can you be old? Forget it, forget it. Li Shimin shook his head and said, everyone, get up. This was a decision I made before. After indicating for everyone to get up, Li Shimin sat in the middle of the crowd and said, I think we should respect Brother Zhang Feng's choice on this matter. After all, if we were thick-skinned back then, maybe, but we are all old. It is time for us to contribute to the future of the Tang dynasty. Chapter 253. No one understood the meaning of the emperor's ambiguous words. But at this time, they could only play dumb. Sometimes, people died from talking too much. They died from being smart. At this time, Li Shimin was also satisfied. After achieving his goal, Li Shimin could not help but let go of the last bit of fear in his heart. Since that is the case, then I have decided. Since Brother Zhang Feng is willing to teach all his skills to Qing Qian and the others, then I will allow it. But, when the time comes, I will personally assess how much they have learned from Brother Zhang Feng. If they do not pass, then they will remain the same as they are now. If they have learned well, then I will reward them. But, I have a request. Hearing this, everyone was overjoyed and hurriedly expressed their thanks. Li Shimin said again, every day, I must receive their learning progress. Then, Qing Yaojin, you and the people of the military department will work together to secretly organize what Zhang Feng has taught for me. As for Du Go, Minister Feng, I will have to trouble you. As for Qing Qian, I will personally organize it. But, there is one thing. I do not wish to hear what Qing Qian has learned outside. In the end, Li Shimin still expressed his worries. He believed that these people would understand. If they didn't, they wouldn't be here tonight. They all stood up and knelt on the ground again. We obey your Majesty's imperial order. All right, get up. Since it's already so late, don't go back tonight. We haven't drunk together in a long time. How about it? Why don't we have the imperial chef make some mutton soup and pair it with Brother Zhang Feng's good wine? Without waiting for anyone to object, Li Shimin said with a chuckle, I know that those little rascals actually sneaked into my yellow forest to hunt a tiger and gave it to Brother Zhang Feng. I also know that the most precious tiger penis was given to an old scholar by that little rascal. Li Shimin seemed to be very angry. It was as if his heart ached. He shook his head and said, forget it. Tomorrow, we'll go and eat tiger meat. That was good stuff. Let's go together then. What could they say? What did he dare to say? He could only nod his head. They had just walked on the edge of life and death. Right now, everyone's backs were drenched in sweat. How could he dare to say anything else? Now that the emperor was in the midst of comprehending, if anyone dared to speak at this time, they would definitely be done for. Not long after, Hunyang Imo was suddenly carried in by a few palace eunuchs. The spicy pepper, the numbing pepper, and the dogwood powder, which he stole from Zhang Feng, instantly filled the imperial study with a spicy sensation that made one unable to blink. Come, come, come. Li Shimin seemed to have an appetite. He rubbed his hands and beckoned for everyone to sit down. Then, he personally opened a jar of wine and served it to everyone. Then, he raised his glass and said, "Everyone has worked hard during this period of time. I have long wanted to treat everyone to a drink, but unfortunately, I never had the time. Tonight, let's have a good drink." While speaking, Li Shimin raised his head and drank the wine in one gulp. After drinking a glass of wine, everyone's nerves gradually relaxed. Li Shimin asked slowly, "By the way, Minister Fang, can you tell me what happened to the cooperative in Chang'an recently? Furthermore, I have a bad premonition." Fang Xianling hurriedly put down his glass and was about to stand up, but Li Shimin waved his hand and motioned him to sit down and talk. "Your Majesty, I have noticed that the Chang and local government's treasury was less than 30 million taels of silver. But now, including the money lent out and the money deposited, the total amount is 10 million taels of gold. This is a considerable amount, so I think that the matter of Guanlong hasn't started yet. But I also found something wrong in the past 2 days. That is, the goods of all the merchants have been hoarding. No one has said that they want to go out of the city. A large number of goods of Zhenla and the treasury have all been sold out. Most of the merchants even borrowed money at the entrance of the government office and then turned around to buy goods. But there are also a large number of Huzi, Tubo, and Turkic merchants who have come to buy goods. I sent someone to talk to General Yuchi. He didn't find any clues, but the people on the trade route are indeed much less than before. I am investigating this matter, and I believe that there will be definite news tomorrow." Li Shimin heard this. He nodded. As long as the money in the treasury didn't decrease, it meant that everything was normal. As for why these merchants didn't transport goods out and why they hoarded in Chang'an, Li Shimin didn't worry about it. There was no problem with the trade route. That meant that these merchants were deliberately hoarding goods. It was not up to him to care about it. After thinking about it, Li Shimin didn't think about it anymore. There was no problem with the money, and no bad things had happened to the merchants, which meant that this matter hadn't developed to a bad point for the time being. After all, there were merchants who had the habit of hoarding goods before. Now, it was just that there were more goods. After Li Shimin understood this, he didn't think about it anymore. He waved his hand and said, "Okay. Let's not think too much. Maybe Brother Zhang Feng is drunk, or he wants us to be on guard against the Guanlong group. As long as we pay attention now, once this matter starts, even if the Guanlong group wants to cause trouble, it's over. Now, let's eat and finalize the matter of them worshipping Zhang Feng as their teacher." Okay, and at this moment, when the gong sounded, it was the time of the hour. In a dark room in Chang'an City, an oil lamp was slowly lit by someone. The next moment, a group of luxuriously dressed figures appeared in this room. One of them, a white-haired old man with a veil, glanced at the crowd and asked, "How is it?" Chapter 254. In the dyeing house of Xinghua Lane. Usually, this place was just an inconspicuous cloth dyeing shop. However, tonight, it was already midnight, but in the backyard of this cloth dyeing shop, a candle flame was so conspicuous in the night. And in this small house, it was actually crowded with people. Some of them were dressed in servant clothes, some were dressed in servant clothes, and some were even dressed in gorgeous clothes. There was an old man who was sitting at the highest point of the house, and a few people who were about 20 years old standing at the door. At this time, they were looking at the old man in the lead respectfully. The old man didn't seem to want to talk. He sat steadily at the head of the table, sipping tea from time to time. Have you all found out about this matter? What do you think about this matter? Everyone heard this. He hurriedly replied, Your Excellency, we've already dealt with it cleanly. We've already greeted all the merchants who are related to us, and we've settled everything on the trade route. As long as we give the order, all the materials piled up in Chang, and will cause the entire city to fall into chaos. And these businessmen have promised that they will create public opinion at the critical moment. Okay. The old man waved his hand impatiently. I just want to know if you've dealt with it. I only want the result. Yes. I've also dealt with it here. We're just waiting for the Sir's order. After everyone gave their assurances, the old man put down the teacup and said with a smile, Good. In that case, let's get started. This time, Li Shimin was still kept in the dark. This is worthy of praise. When I go back, I'll definitely report this to the higher-ups. I will also truthfully report your contributions to the higher-ups. Thank you very much, sir. After saying this, the old man turned an emerald ring in his hand and said coldly, You want to go against my Guanlong group? Li Shimin, I'm afraid you've forgotten how the Sui dynasty fell. You've probably forgotten how your Li family climbed up, haven't you? Everyone, get ready tonight. Tomorrow, I only want to hear the news of chaos in Chang'an City. Yes. Night fell. It was a restless night. But the night would eventually pass. The night would eventually pass. When the sun shone on Chang'an City again, a strange atmosphere suddenly spread in Chang'an City. A rumor suddenly appeared on the streets of Xinghua Square in Chang'an. Have you heard? These merchants were going to suffer a huge loss this time. I heard that the big countries in the western regions have forbidden our merchants from entering. What? Then what about my goods? I've already put in all my savings. Who isn't? The batch of goods I'm importing from Jinla is finished. Those are saltwater fish. If we don't deal with this quickly, then what should we do? What else can we do? Isn't this the real thing that the government wants us to buy? Now that they don't want it anymore, we have to go to the authorities. If they can lend us the money, it means that they can definitely handle this matter. Someone in the crowd roared. In an instant, all the merchants flocked to the temporary government office of the Ministry of Works, as if they had found their backbone. And this matter was still fermenting, as if there was a hand stirring the muddy water. Everyone rushed to the direction of the Chang'an City treasury like crazy. There were even some people who were pulling their goods and shouting in the city. They were howling about how the officials were not giving them a good life, and what not. And at this time, urgent reports were also placed on Li Shimin's desk. Urgent document from Longyu Circuit. All the Guanlong Trading Company in Longyu Circuit issued a notice at the same time. From today onwards, all the trading routes will be suspended, and the 5 families and 7 major clans will jointly impose economic sanctions on Chang'an. Urgent report from Shannon Circuit. Li family of Longxi, one of the 5 families and 7 major clans, today suspends the sale of food to Chang'an. All the branches are banned from trading with Chang'an. Jiannan Circuit, Hebei Circuit, Hunan Circuit, Jiangnan Circuit. The urgent reports made Li Shimin's face completely gloomy. Guanlong Trading Company, are you in such a hurry to suppress me? Do you really think I'm not prepared for your suppression? Li Shimin was angry. If it weren't for Zhang Feng's guidance, he might not have realized the seriousness of this matter until now. But now, he was prepared, so he was not in such a hurry to deal with it. With a wave of his hand, Li Shimin shouted, What's the situation in Chang'an today? Hearing this, a small yellow door outside the imperial study hurried in, knelt down and said, Your Majesty, there are a lot of rumors in the room. The officials are dealing with the angry people. Now, all the people are at the gate of the Chang'an City Treasury. Lord Feng and Lord Zhangsun have sent people to deal with this matter in person. Good. A strong killing intent burst out of Li Shimin's eyes. He waved his hand and shouted, Send my order. Wei Zheng, Qing Yaojin, and the others immediately enter the palace and send a message to the Cheng and city garrison. Immediately gather 50,000 soldiers and wait for orders. Yes. Chapter 255. The chaos in Cheng and city. Zhang Feng faintly felt that something was wrong. The Guanlong group had finally made a move. But why had the emperor not made a move? Moreover, who knew what that bastard old Li was doing these days? There was no movement at all. Was he waiting for death? Zhang Feng looked at the people scurrying around on the street. He turned over and lay down on the recliner under the crooked tree. He did not want to take a nap like this. He had also heard about this. It was very clever. This opponent had some intelligence. First, he used the Guanlong group to put pressure on the merchants to stock up crazily. Then, at the right time, he cut off the trade routes. This was really a good move. Even in the modern world a few hundred years later, he would be considered a talent. This was awesome. Zhang Feng admired the person who came up with this plan. But was there a solution now? Zhang Feng was silent. This time, the Guanlong group had held back for so long. When they made a move, they would definitely make a big move. And it would be a big move that could strangle the emperor. Did that mean that the 7 major clans had made a move at this time? Zhang Feng smiled. In his previous life, he had developed a strong interest in this mysterious Huaxia aristocrat. He did not expect to meet this mysterious force at this time. The 7 major clans could control the rise and fall of a dynasty. This force, could the emperor really win against them? Zhang Feng smiled. But he also fell asleep. Just as Zhang Feng fell asleep, Yi Zichen's eyes lit up. In the imperial study. Zhang Sun Wuji and the others appeared in the imperial study, sweating profusely. Last night, they were still assuring him that there was absolutely nothing wrong, but they didn't expect to hear such a lousy thing when they woke up early in the morning. And from the report from the little yellow door, the emperor seemed to be very angry this time. At this time, the 5 of them lowered their heads and did not dare to say a word. Li Shimin was also anxious. He paced back and forth in the imperial study. I don't want to ask anymore. I don't want to ask anymore. The whole thing was my negligence. If I had asked Brother Zhang Feng earlier, things wouldn't have turned out this way. But now that things have happened, we have to think of a solution. We can't ask Brother Zhang Feng for help now that something has gone wrong. Even if you feel embarrassed, I feel embarrassed. Let's all talk. What should we do about this? Your Majesty. I, Old Cheng, feel that we should let the Imperial City Guard search from house to house. They will definitely. Alright, shut up. Shut up. Li Shimin impatiently waved his hand and pointed at Zhang Sun Wuji. You're the Minister of Justice. How do you think we should solve this problem? This, your humble servant is slow-witted. Right now, all the trade routes outside of Cheng and have been cut off. Even if we could reopen the trade routes, who would the merchants sell their goods to? The 5 clans and 7 watchful families control all the entrances to trade. At this time, no one would have thought that they would attack at the same time. This. I am stupid, I don't know what to do. Wei Zheng. Li Shimin's face was so gloomy that it was about to drip water. He shouted angrily, Du Ruhui, Feng Xianling, the 2 of you carefully think of a solution for me. At this time, Wei Zheng said, Your Majesty, your humble servant thinks that the best way to solve this problem is to negotiate with the people of the Guanlong group. There's nothing that can't be discussed. Moreover, this matter is obviously aimed at this cooperative. If your Majesty is willing to compromise, this humble servant thinks that there will be room for negotiation. Will there be? Li Shimin laughed at himself. He knew how overbearing the Guanlong group was. He wanted to suppress the Guanlong group behind their back. No one was a fool. Everyone knew very well in their hearts. Moreover, it was obvious that he wanted to take control of the economy. This obviously affected their development. Unless he gave away the rights to this cooperative and she immediately abdicated, he really couldn't think of any other way to solve this problem perfectly. This matter was just an excuse for Guanlong to beat him at this time. Li Shimin knew very well in his heart. Alas! Li Shimin sighed deeply. This matter. You and the others go and comfort me first. As for the solution, Li Shimin fell silent again. Up until now, this matter had happened. Except for these people standing in front of him, who else came to report about this matter? A burst of sad anger leisurely burned in Li Shimin's chest. This is one of my subjects. This is the courtier of the Tang dynasty. Was this what those fellows who kept on talking about were doing now? I'm afraid that everyone is busy counting the family property now. Who can spare a thought for me at this time? Li Shimin couldn't help but tremble. He tried hard to make himself not think about this matter. Then he waved his hand and said, forget it, forget it. Now put down everything for me. Send all the people to solve the chaos in Chang'an. As for the solution, I'll personally ask Brother Zhang Feng. Li Shimin looked up to the sky and sighed. He pointed to the window. No one could see clearly his anger. Li Shimin seemed to be talking to himself. This is the imperial court of the Tang dynasty. Haha. Although it is said that there are hundreds of courtiers. But at this time, how many people are really thinking for me? It's time to clean up. Chapter 256. As all the merchants in Chang'an City began to panic. Everyone in Chang'an City gradually felt a trace of pressure. At this time, in Chang'an City, even the glass products that were usually worth more than 10 taels of silver had their prices plummeted to the freezing point today. 5 taels of silver. Such a shocking thing not only did not make the people feel excited, but they also felt a trace of fear. In the Daxing market of Ndingfang, at this time, in the market full of goods, all the merchants personally went to the market. They shouted with red faces and thick necks, come, 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 don't miss this. Top-grade silks are being sold at half price. Quality guarantee, a benefit that can wait 1,000 years for a moment. Dear villagers, I am a merchant from Dashi country. Because of some matters, all the silk products, all the silks, all the furs, all the tea leaves, and all the other goods are being sold at half price. Don't miss this opportunity. All the goods were originally priced at 1 tael of silver, but now they are sold for 100 copper coins. 100 copper coins. Dear villagers, come and have a look. And in this regard, all the people were stunned. What the F***, what's going on? Motherf***. Are these merchants in cahoots? Damn it. Are we buying or not? No. Wait a minute, I keep feeling that something is wrong. There were many onlookers, but there were only a few people who were willing to buy it. It could even be said that everyone clutched their money bags tightly, afraid that the money bags they had just bulged would be directly taken away by these unscrupulous businessmen for some reason. Somewhere. An old man who heard the news from a village outside Chang'an City drove a carriage, frowning as if he was patrolling. With his hands behind his back, he slowly selected the silk products that he once did not dare to look at. Early in the morning, he heard that Chang'an City was in chaos. All the merchants were selling their goods at half price, and there were even some who directly came to sell and give away at half price. How could he let go of such a good thing? Looking at the people in the village, those unmarried girls or young men who were half-grown, every day, they did not have the money to buy clothes to cover their bodies. She couldn't even bear to buy linen clothes. Normally, only the rich could afford to wear these clothes, but now they were cheaper than linen clothes. The old patriarch brought the smart young men of the clan to Chang'an to try their luck. If that was the case, then what harm was there in buying some? The old patriarch paced back and forth in front of every silk stall and compared them with the linen clothing store. Then, he picked up a piece of silk cloth and asked in front of a dejected fat man, "Shopkeeper, how much is this cloth?" The fatty was already in despair. The trade route outside was blocked. Moreover, it was someone that even the imperial family could not afford to offend. How could he not be worried? Half a day had passed, but he hadn't sold a single foot of cloth. It seemed as if he would lose everything he had invested in these materials. However, at this very moment, someone actually came to ask about it. All of a sudden, the fatty was energized. Looking at all the pairs of shrewd eyes staring at him, he rolled his eyes, patted his chest and roared, "Sir, you really have a good eye. You've seen this cloth too. It's top-grade silk. You're my first customer today. How about this? If you like it, you can give me a price. On top of the price you gave, I'll give you another piece of cloth. How about that?" This merchant had a good eye. Zhang Feng stood in the crowd and couldn't help but nod. This kind of business was quite similar to the promotion model of the modern era. Although it seemed like he was making a loss, once this news spread, it would be strange if he lost money. As long as he could suppress the situation later, he wouldn't lose much from the 5 carts of silk cloth today. Just as Zhang Feng was pondering what the fatty was going to do, the old patriarch narrowed his eyes. The old man narrowed his eyes and tightly gripped the brown silk cloth in his hand. He asked, "Really?" The fatty patted his chest and said, "Don't worry, sir. I'm a proper merchant, and a who at that. I'm in a hurry to return to Dashi, so I'll keep my word on these materials." "Really? Little brother. Is what you said true? We only need to name a price for these pieces of cloth. Little brother, don't you think you're right?" All the onlookers were aghast. They hurriedly stepped forward and grabbed a piece of cloth, shouting with red eyes. The fatty wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, "Everyone, I'm sure you all know the price of these materials. However, because that unscrupulous Guanlong Corporation is wantonly suppressing us, we can't do anything about it. So, in order to not lose too much, we've lowered the price to the lowest. But don't worry. I've said before that these materials were originally worth more than 100 taels. But now, they only cost 10 taels." Hearing this, everyone was disappointed. Even the old patriarch had a look of deep disappointment in his eyes at this moment. The fat man's eyes swept across everyone's faces before he said, "Old man, this is my first time meeting you. You're my first customer. I'm a man of my word. Just name a price. We'll definitely give you these 2 bolts of cloth." "Really? I'll keep my word." Then, the old man stretched out 3 trembling fingers and said, 50 taels. Chapter 257. 50 copper coins. At this time, a bolt of silk cloth was worth 200 copper coins. This was the normal price. But at this moment, this rotten old man actually offered 50 copper coins? He could sell it? And it was a buy one get one free situation. Was he an idiot? All the onlookers, the peddlers, the merchants, and even the patrolling soldiers all stopped to watch the show. Even the patrolling soldiers unsheathed their swords at this moment. As long as this fellow dared to deny his previous words, they dared to swarm up and take this troublemaker to jail, letting him have a taste of what it was like to lie. Moreover, their families were lacking in food and clothing. If they could really buy a bolt of cloth at this price, then they would go and snatch one. Zhang Feng glanced at him with interest before leaving. The situation here was basically settled. The merchant was bound to make a killing. At this moment, in the crowd, the officials from the Bureau of Works and Bureau of Punishments were anxiously waiting for the merchant to give a reasonable answer. But at this moment, that fatty, unexpectedly, agreed. "Old sir. You are my first customer today. Then as the first customer, the rules of my Abbasid Caliphate are that we will pay whatever you say. Then 50 copper coins. You hand over the money and I hand over the goods, and these 2 bolts of cloth are yours." "Really?" The old tribal chief was also rather surprised. And it was a shock. He had never intended to buy the cloth with this amount of money, but now? He had actually agreed. I'm sure. The fatty stood on the carriage once more, raising a bolt of cloth and roaring, "We merchants value our reputation the most. Every mouthful of saliva is a nail in the nail. Since I've agreed, I'll do as I say." Everyone's eyes turned red. When they saw the old sir hand over 50 copper coins to the fatty, choose 2 bolts of cloth from the fatty's carriage, and happily leave, everyone exploded and swarmed forward. "Boss, I want 10 bolts of cloth. I want 3 bolts. Me too. Me too." Everyone began to scramble for the cloth, and the fatty heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at the frenzied crowd, he revealed his yellow teeth. "Everyone, don't be anxious, don't be anxious. Listen to me." He didn't take the money. Instead, he slowly said, "This time, it's all because of those damned Guanlong nobles. I don't know what's gotten into them, but they sealed off all the trade routes. Our goods can't be shipped out. And you also know that we came all the way to the Tang dynasty just to make a living. But unfortunately, we encountered such a situation, so we had no choice but to do this." "Fatty, what do you mean?" The people in the crowd were furious. No one was a fool. When they heard this, everyone instantly came to a realization. Could it be that this bastard wanted to revert to the original price? "Fatty, this is the Tang dynasty. If you dare to cheat, I'll let you have a taste of my Chang and local government." The patrolling soldiers in the crowd were angry. The fatty's face was pale as he waved his hands. "Sir, please calm down and listen to me carefully. Businessmen, especially foreign businessmen, were subject to strict laws in the Tang dynasty. If they encountered those who cheated or wanted to steal, they would be thrown into prison and expelled from the Tang dynasty. They would never be allowed to step into the Tang dynasty again." This was the attitude of the Tang dynasty towards foreigners. How could the fatty not be anxious at this time? He hurriedly explained, "This time, it's our fault. I didn't make it clear before. I just said that this old man is our first customer. Everyone heard that, right? So for this matter, for the first customer, we will usually satisfy his request. But, for the later ones, it's not so bad." Under the angry eyes of the crowd, the fatty hurriedly said, "But, the price is still 200 coins per bolt. On this basis, we'll give you a bolt of cloth. It's 100 coins per bolt. Of course, if you want to buy a bolt of cloth, we'll charge 90 coins. That's fine." Hearing this, the crowd could not help but frown and slowly calculate. Most of the people left angrily, but there were still some people who were counting on their fingers, calculating something. In the end, someone made a move. 90 coins, and he really bought a bolt of cloth. This time, the people who were still hesitating finally could not help but make a move. They all made a move. On the other side, all the onlooking businessmen frowned thoughtfully and calculated. Some people even followed the fatty's method. Sure enough, in this way, the things that no one was interested in were instantly sold out. Even the patrolling soldiers could not help but rush forward to buy. The figures of the Ministry of Works were hidden in the crowd. From time to time, they would record something in the small notebook in their arms. On the other side, there was no such good thing. This kind of thing only happened among the barbarian businessmen and foreign businessmen who were anxious not to get involved in the internal strife of the Tang dynasty. But the local businessmen of Chang and were miserable. They did not have any rare goods in their hands. For the foreign businessmen, this was at most a small profit, but not a big loss. But for the businessmen of the Tang dynasty, this was a disaster. At this time, in the Chang and local government, the high pile of complaints made the county magistrate's head ache. When had he ever seen such a thing? At this time, in the back hall of the county government, the county magistrate, Zhu Dashan, was sweating and pacing back and forth in the room. Beside him, the advisor with a goatee, who was as thin as a monkey, was half squinting and sitting motionless on the chair. If it were not for his beard that moved from time to time, everyone would think that he was asleep. At this time, a yamen runner rushed into the back hall and reported, "Sir. Something happened to Sir." Hearing this, Zhu Dashan and the advisor's eyes twitched. They asked in unison, "What happened?" "The Ministry of Works is here." Chapter 258. Zhu Dashan heaved a deep sigh of relief. He hurriedly shouted, "Then why are you still standing there? Hurry up and invite them in." He did not dare to go to the front hall. In the front hall, there was already a sea of people, crying and wailing. He was worried. Whenever he heard the merchants' cries, he would have a headache. However, he had no choice but to listen. The people from the Ministry of Works were here. What could he do? However, it would be easier to handle if someone in charge came. This was the Ministry of Works matter. If the Ministry of Works had not set up a cooperative, would things have turned out this way? Zhu Dashan knew very well that this was a matter between the emperor and the Guanlong group. As a lowly county magistrate, it was not easy for him to judge. How could he judge? Could he say it was the Ministry of Works? He did not dare. Could he say it was Guanlong's fault? Did he still want to live? Did he still want to eat rice? Therefore, he did not dare to offend anyone. One was his immediate superior. If he was careless, his head would roll. The other was the biggest business team in the Tang dynasty. If he dared to offend them, he could guarantee that he would not be able to buy a single grain of rice tomorrow. That was the terrifying thing about the Guanlong group. Just as Zhu Dashan was letting his imagination run wild, the people from the Ministry of Works came in. Zhu Dashan and his private advisor forced an ugly smile when they saw the person. They bowed and said, "Lord Sun, you're finally here." The person who came was a minor supervisor from the Ministry of Works. However, even a minor supervisor like him could not compare to his position as a county magistrate. That was because the supervisor worked in the palace, while he was just a minor county magistrate. Zhu Dashan, let me ask you. How many cases have the Chang and local government received this time about the road closures caused by Guanlong? The person who came was concise and comprehensive. Obviously, he did not care about his complaints. Zhu Dashan hurriedly replied, "Lord Sun, the Chang and local government received a total of 90 complaints today. I dare not judge the cases so easily, so I've already submitted them to the higher-ups." Lord Sun frowned and nodded. "That's all for now. As for the future, we'll talk about it later. Delay all cases as long as you can. The Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Justice have already intervened in this matter. As for the complaints in the future, submit them to the Ministry of Justice immediately. At that time, the Ministry of Justice will give you a unified answer." "Yes. I understand." Zhu Dashan heaved a sigh of relief. It would be great if he didn't have to make a move. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but it was obvious that this matter had exceeded the scope of what he could handle. He did not dare to move. Obviously, this was the best way. The people from the Ministry of Works hurriedly left. An hour after the people from the Ministry of Works left, notices were posted everywhere in Chang'an City. From today onwards, all merchants who are involved in hoarding goods can report to the Ministry of Justice. As for the punishment, the Ministry of Justice will give you an explanation within 3 days. All the merchants and commoners panicked when they saw the announcement from the Ministry of Justice. Although he said that he would give an explanation 3 days later. However, this was only an explanation. He didn't say anything about solving it. Everyone panicked. Looking at the notices, all the merchants blocked all the people from the Ministry of Justice who came to put up the notices and asked, "Sir, the notice says that there will be an explanation in 3 days. However, what we are hoarding are smuggled goods that we bought from the treasury. How can we still use them after 3 days?" "That's right. My lord, the goods in our hands were all obtained from the treasury. Can we return the goods first? We can't wait for a day. How many aquatic products will die? Sir, please take pity on us and let us feel at ease." Everyone who put up the notices panicked. Actually, I can understand everyone's concerns. However, this matter has alarmed the emperor. Therefore, I ask everyone to be patient and wait for a while. Right now, His Majesty is dealing with this matter, so at the latest tomorrow, His Majesty will make a decision. At the same time, in Taiji Palace, Li Shimon's hair, which had returned to its original black color after eating the powder of the locust eggs, had turned white again. After a night, his black hair had already turned gray. He was worried. He did not expect Guanlong's suppression to start when hoarding began in Chang'an City. Every time Li Shimon thought of this matter, he wished he could slap himself a few times. How good would it be if he had listened to Zhang Feng at that time? He would not be trapped in a hopeless situation now. However, what could he do now? Everything was trapped in Chang'an. If he did not come up with a solution today, Chang'an would be in chaos. What should he do? What should he do? Li Shimon was even more worried. Looking at the emperor, little Gizi wanted to say something again, but he held himself back in the end. However, after seeing the emperor in so much pain, he could not help but say, "Your Majesty, why don't we ask Zhang Feng for help?" Since he was able to predict this matter, then he must have a way to solve this matter. Brother Zhang Feng, Li Shimon heard this and a strange look flashed across his eyes. I am ashamed to face Brother Zhang Feng. Chapter 259. On the streets of Chang'an, Li Shimon sat in an ordinary sedan chair. Through the curtains, he looked at the goods piled up like mountains outside. His head hurt again. This time, he did not ask anyone to accompany him. It was just him, a carriage, and a group of guards. It was that simple. This way, he could see the real Chang'an City. When he had time, he wanted to walk around Chang'an City alone and talk about it with Zhang Feng. But he could not do it. He was the emperor of the Tang dynasty. If he did not do something right, he would be impeached by all the civil and military officials in the imperial court. It was the same this time. Li Shimon waited for a day and a night. Not a single official came up with a good idea because of this matter. Instead, during the morning court session, he met many who came to complain. They came to impeach the Ministry of Works and himself. These were his officials. Li Shimon felt a wave of sadness. A wave of deep sadness. This was his imperial court. When there was nothing going on, everyone was a good official. But once something happened to the Tang dynasty, a large group of people would come to impeach someone. Sometimes, Li Shimon wanted to directly confront Zhang Feng and ask him to reorganize the imperial college. He wanted to find someone who could really think for the Tang dynasty. But he did not dare. He did not want to. His relationship with Zhang Feng was so bluntly announced. More importantly, he cared too much about Zhang Feng. So, he did not want Zhang Feng to be trapped in the filthy place of the imperial court so early. At this time, his mind was full of that mysterious scripture. That was the thing that was rumored to be passed down by Shun. It was the thing that helped the king of Qin to unify the world. It was the thing that made everyone crazily fight for it. Was it true or not? At this time, Li Shimon was very conflicted. He didn't know what he had done wrong to cause the entire country to fall into a situation where it was controlled by others. Whether it was Guanlong, the 5 surnames and 7 Wangs, or even the Tujue who was waiting for an opportunity by his bed, all of them were blocking his path. "Master Li, we're here." Just as Li Shimon was letting his imagination run wild, little Gizi quietly reminded Li Shimon from outside the sedan. Li Shimon took a deep breath and looked at the familiar yet strange Tonghui Square, which was also the market where Zhang Feng lived. Taking a deep breath, he stepped out of the palanquin. With a wave of his hand, he ordered the Jinwu guards, who were disguised as attendants, to hide in the shadows and guard the area. He even ordered Xiao Gizi to wait at the entrance of the square. Only then did he sort out his emotions and slowly walk towards Zhang Feng's tavern. Just as he turned 3 alleys, he saw Zhang Feng with his hands clasped behind his back, kicking a broken tile as he walked back. "Brother Zhang Feng? You're going out?" Li Shimin was surprised. He could clearly see that Zhang Feng was thinking about something. When Zhang Feng saw Li Shimin, he was also stunned. The foot that he kicked out slipped, and he instantly stumbled and fell to the ground. Seeing this, Li Shimin hurried forward to help him up. "Lao Li? Why are you here? Shouldn't you be helping Lord Zhangsun deal with this mess right now?" "Right, what I asked Li Gan to tell you last time. Did you tell Zhangsun Wuji?" Li Shimin sighed and silently helped Zhang Feng up. Seeing this, Zhang Feng's face darkened. This Lao Li, how could he be so careless about such an important matter? Zhang Feng's face also changed slightly. "Follow me into the house." Zhang Feng did not waste any more words. The current situation did not allow him to waste any more words. After entering the tavern, Zhang Feng did not take any wine, nor did he go to the kitchen as usual. Instead, he took a bag of tiger jerky wrapped in oil paper from the counter and poured a cup of tea for Li Shimin. Then, he asked, "Lao Li, tell me the truth. How much of this matter did you participate in? If it's not much, then just treat it as spending money to avoid disaster. Don't get too used to it." Brother Zhang Feng." Li Shimin sighed and said, "Last time, you asked Qian, that bastard, to pass the message to me. I also heard him tell me the truth. However, I may have been blinded by lard. I didn't take Guanlong's matter to heart. After all, it was the emperor's matter. How could we, the common people, get involved? However, I did not expect Guanlong's grandson to be so vicious. He directly cut off all the trade routes. Now, even if I wanted to ignore it, I have no choice. I directly bet all my wealth from the treasury on Jinla's seafood. Originally, I wanted to get you some of that arm-length prawn thing you mentioned. But now, it's a little inauspicious, so today, I did not bring." Zhang Feng pulled a handful of hair, his face full of worry. "Tell me the truth, how much seafood did you get from Jinla?" "Almost all my wealth." Zhang Feng was a little dizzy. This fool. Don't you know that a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows? Are you still king businessman? Don't you know this kind of thing? I've tried so hard to persuade you so much, but you've turned a deaf ear to my advice." Zhang Feng was speechless. He rubbed his temples, feeling a headache. "Fine. Lao Li, I can't help you this time. I already told you to send your precious son to the military camp to seek refuge. I asked Lord Zhangsun to pass a message to divert everyone's attention to the war at the border, but you didn't listen. Now, you didn't prepare anything and they blocked the door for you. Now, I can't do anything." Chapter 260. Li Shimin heard this. He felt a little dizzy. "Brother Zhang Feng, you can't do this. If you do this, Lao Li, can't live anymore. You also know our current situation. If we want to escape now, it's too late. When the time comes, if the emperor comes to settle accounts, then won't my family be confiscated and my ancestors exterminated?" Zhang Feng glared at him. "Now you remember what I said? I told you not to invest all your money, but you didn't listen. Now what are you going to do? You're blocking my way. What can I do?" Zhang Feng was speechless. Logically speaking, the emperor was not a fool. How could he not know that Guanlong was such a big threat? If this were to happen, the Great Tang would be doomed. They would be blocked at any time. Zhang Feng couldn't help but comfort him. "However, Lao Li, don't worry. It's not all bad. At least, the cooperative and marketing model have been quietly implemented under such high pressure. You didn't see that fatty from Dashi country today. I almost thought that it was you who set up the trap." Li Yindong said with a smile. "That fatty from Dashi country? That fat man was indeed arranged by me. He came to me before, so I used this trick on him. Brother Zhang Feng, what do you think? Li Shimin finally regained some of his pride. Not bad. Zhang Feng curled his lips. I've told you this many times, and I used it last time in Longyu Road. If you don't know how to use it now, then, you're really hopeless. However, this is just a drop in the bucket. Even if all the people in Chang and city participate in the purchase, they still can't stop the blockade of Chang and by the Guanlong group this time. So, the key is to solve the problem from the root. Have you thought about it? Li Shimin couldn't help but slowly frown. Alas. Brother Zhang Feng, how can I not think about it? I've been thinking too much. Do you know how I spent the night last night? In the Imperial Palace. Do you know about the Imperial Palace? All those big shots were pressuring me so much that I didn't even dare to breathe loudly. But even so, I still haven't come up with a solution. When Zhang Feng heard this, he rubbed his chin and asked, "What did the emperor say? Have you seen His Majesty?" "No." Li Shimin shook his head like a rattledrum. "Although I didn't see His Majesty, I heard that His Majesty hasn't slept for 2 nights. I'm guessing he's worried about this matter." "What the F***ck were you doing earlier?" Zhang Feng was speechless. If he had thought of these things earlier, he wouldn't be in such a passive position now. Motherf***ker, to think that I thought he had a plan beforehand. That's why I mentioned it the last time your precious son came. I didn't expect it to be nothing at all. What does he do? How long has it been since the founding of the Tang dynasty? Has he forgotten the pain so quickly? Zhang Feng was speechless. Li Shimin's face turned red. But what could he do? He had indeed forgotten about the Guanlong group before, but he thought that Guanlong wouldn't do anything since it was a mutually beneficial thing. But he didn't expect Guanlong to be so ruthless this time. Motherf***ker, you've monopolized the economy of the Tang dynasty. I just want to make some money, but you still want to suppress me. What the hell is this? At this time, Li Shimin had an impulse. If it really doesn't work, I'll just eradicate them all. The Tang dynasty's economic development will only be weakened for a few years. Li Shimin can still bear it. Thinking of this, Li Shimin interrupted Zhang Feng's chatter and asked, "Brother Zhang Feng, do you think His Majesty wants to uproot these guys? In other words, send the army to eradicate them?" "No." Zhang Feng waved his hand. "As long as His Majesty isn't a fool, he won't do such a stupid thing. Think about it. Once His Majesty sends the army, the internal strife against the Tang dynasty won't be limited to Guanlong, but the entire western regions will be in chaos. Just think about how the previous dynasty fell and you'll understand. Guanlong has a long history, and he has a large number of supporters and beneficiaries in various countries. This ensures that he won't hang himself in one place. Once there's a problem in one place, other places will react in an instant. Think about the consequences." Hearing this, Li Shimin couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. A touch of sadness flashed in his eyes. Zhang Feng looked at Li Shimin, shook his head, and patted him on the shoulder. "Lao Li. Don't worry too much about this matter. His Majesty knows what he's doing. Otherwise, why would I call him the Emperor of all ages? Then, Brother Zhang Feng, if it were you, what would you do? How would you solve this dilemma? Basically, Chang and city and all the important economic areas of the Tang dynasty are basically paralyzed at the same time. If the problem isn't solved in a short time, what awaits the Tang dynasty won't just be my business, but the entire Tang dynasty's economic decline. I really don't want to see this." Zhang Feng nodded. He walked to the door of the tavern, opened it, and looked around. He asked Guzi and the others, who were squatting on the ground and playing with mud, to help him look around. Then, he returned to Li Shimin's side and whispered, "Actually, I do have a way. It's the only way." Chapter 261. What is it? Li Shimin grabbed Zhang Feng's hand excitedly. His burning gaze made Zhang Feng's hair stand on end. He shook off Zhang Feng's hand with a look of disgust and said, "Let's talk about it. Don't drag me around. I haven't even talked about my wife yet. If someone else saw this, it would be terrible." Okay. Tell me quickly. You're making me anxious." How could Li Shimin not be anxious? At this time, it would be strange if he wasn't anxious. Seeing Zhang Feng dragging his feet, Li Shimin was so anxious that he wanted to strangle him. Zhang Feng couldn't stand Li Shimin's burning gaze and said, "In fact, anyone who hangs around Cheng and City knows about this." What? Zhang Feng wasn't anxious. He asked, "Laoli, let me ask you. Are all the trade routes in Cheng and City and in Luozhou blocked?" "That's true. Otherwise, I wouldn't be so anxious. As long as the siege of Cheng and Luozhou is lifted, Guanlong's suppression will collapse. But the problem is how to get rid of this thing. You said that the emperor can't go to war with Guanlong, he can't surrender to Guanlong either. What else can we do? Don't tell him to surrender and lose half of it. Otherwise, I, Laoli, will despise you." Li Shimin's words were quite good at the beginning, but the meaning of his words changed as he spoke. Zhang Feng couldn't help but feel anxious. He pointed at himself and asked with a puzzled look, "Me? Zhang Feng? Am I that kind of person? Which eye of yours saw or which ear of yours heard Lao Tzu telling him to surrender? This is obviously not our Zhang Feng style, okay? You've been with me for so long, don't you understand my style? Lao Tzu would rather twist the enemy's head off than lower his head. This is the pride of a man. In other words, he was proud and unyielding. Let me ask you, do you have any pride?" "Yes." Li Shimin also hurriedly patted his chest and promised. In the entire world, who could make him lower his head? Other than heaven and earth and their parents, who else would dare? He, Li Shimin, still had this bit of pride. Zhang Feng shrugged. "Isn't that enough? Then why are you asking such an idiotic question?" Li Shimin rubbed his hands and said, "Isn't that because I'm scared? What are you afraid of? His Majesty isn't in a hurry, so what are you in a hurry for? With your family background, if you throw it at the gate of the Guanlong group, they might not even look at it." Zhang Feng despised Li Shimin. Okay, my family business is small, but you don't have to hurt me like this, do you? Now that everything is in front of your eyes, do you have the heart to see me suffer here?" Li Shimin shrugged with a wry smile. Zhang Feng shrugged. "Okay, in that case, I won't tease you anymore. Let me ask you, what did you hear from His Majesty last night? And did His Majesty not prepare for it at all?" "No." Li Shimin shook his head. If he had prepared for this matter, how could the current situation have happened? Perhaps this was what they meant by extreme joy begets sorrow. Hearing this, Zhang Feng paced back and forth in the room with his hands behind his back. The current situation was a dilemma for the Tang dynasty. Zhang Feng's expression suddenly changed. Could it be that because of his appearance, everything in the Tang dynasty had developed steadily in a short period of time, and then the normal trajectory of history had deviated from the original? And then there was a chain reaction? But that couldn't be right. Even if he appeared, he just sped up the world by a small step, and everything he did was just a small step. Only this cooperative was a big move. Was it because of this that everything in the world was in chaos? The Guanlong group took action, and the hidden behemoths behind me would also show their ferocious fangs at this moment. At that time, with the cooperation of these two behemoths, what would happen to the Tang dynasty? Zhang Feng didn't dare to think about it. Part of all this must be because of the cooperative, and the bigger reason might be that in this world, the traditional model, could make the world change. Since it was going to change. Zhang Feng clenched his fists. Looking at the sunlight outside the window, he roared in his heart, since it's going to change, then the rule of Jingguan will start from this time to fight against Guanlong. Turning around, Zhang Feng said to Li Shimin with a serious look, "This time, We're going to open up a new trade route and take away the prestige and industries of Guanlong and the 5 families. Do you dare to do it? If you do, I think the current emperor will like it very much. At that time, you'll either fail on the verge of success and become a scapegoat, or you'll become a supreme scholar in one fell swoop. Do you dare to do it? Open up a new trade route? This, over the past thousands of years, all the businesses had been built slowly over time. If this was really a new business, then this, Li Shimin didn't dare to think about it. However, when he thought about everything controlled by the Guanlong group and the 5 families, he couldn't help but ask, what is the new trade route you mentioned? Zhang Feng didn't answer him, but said, I remember that outside Chang and city, there are 8 rivers, right? Chapter 262. 8 Rivers Circle. How could Li Shimin not know about these 8 rivers? These 8 rivers were Wei, Jing, Feng, Watershed, Bai, and Ba. However, these 8 rivers were basically blocked by silt. In addition, in recent years, the imperial court did not pay attention to these 8 rivers for the Tang dynasty. Therefore, these rivers were basically stranded. However, why would Zhang Feng suddenly say this at this time? Could it be that he wants to use these 8 rivers to change the siege? This doesn't seem to be possible. Li Shimin could not help but ask tentatively, Brother Zhang Feng, do you mean to use these 8 rivers as a breakthrough point? And then bypass the Guanlong group's blockade? This plan is good, but have you thought about these years, these rivers? Before Li Shimin could finish, Zhang Feng interrupted him, I know all these things. But have you thought about it? Is there any place in the world that can compare to Chang'an city? Only Chang'an has such a favorable geographical location. But why not take advantage of this convenient route given by the heavens and use the dry road instead? Now that there are dry roads, you can go and take a look. There are people from the Guanlong group everywhere. Everyone underestimated these 8 rivers. Even the Guanlong group did not expect that in their perfect plan, this would be their biggest failure. Li Shimin was finally shocked. 8 rivers, yes. He had been to countless places. Where else could he encounter the geographical advantage of the 8 waters raising city? No. This was also the biggest reason why they chose to build the capital here. The timing, location, and people were all right. On the top, there was the Yellow Desert, which could stop the Turks. There was also the Qinling Mountains, which formed a natural barrier. On the left, there was the Endless Plain, which could be rushed. There was even the Yellow River, which made transportation more convenient. However, everyone had forgotten the natural advantage of being at their doorstep during the successive years of war. The 8 waters. 9 was the pinnacle, and the imperial city was located here. This was also the biggest reason why this location was chosen. Everyone only felt that this geographical advantage was blessed by the heavens, but they forgot one point, and that was to make use of it. With Zhang Feng's slight explanation, Li Shimin instantly understood. He hurriedly clasped his fist and said, Thank you, Brother Zhang Feng. I understand now. You mean to let people clear all the silt in the rivers as soon as possible, and then use the 8 rivers to solve the current siege? Right. You've finally figured it out. Zhang Feng nodded approvingly. This time, you finally understand. This is the only way out for Chang'an. I really don't know why His Majesty won't make use of such an advantage. His Majesty is really... Li Shimin's eyelids twitched. He hurriedly said again, Well, I won't disturb you anymore. I'll go back and report this matter to my superiors. Sorry to bother you today, Brother Zhang Feng. See you next time. As he spoke, Li Shimin took out a brand new banknote, put it on the table, and then left in a hurry. Zhang Feng curiously took the banknote, which looked like a banknote but was slightly bigger than a banknote, put it under his nose, and took a deep breath. The memory of my previous life is still too little after all. On the other side, Chang'an city was in a mess. Especially those who had bought seafood from the Chang'an city treasury, they were even more anxious now. The weather in Chang'an City was hotter than anywhere else. In addition, in the past 2 days, the sudden rumor of road closures in Chang'an City made the merchants even more flustered. At this time, hundreds of merchants were either squatting, standing, or lying at the entrance of the treasury, wailing in grief. At the entrance of the treasury, the officials of the treasury were also struggling to deal with the crowd. I can't live like this anymore. I spent a few thousand taels of silver to buy these things that your treasury guaranteed. Dozens of pounds have died today, and we haven't even left Chang'an City yet. Oh my God. Open your eyes. Your Excellency. You were the one who said that if there was a problem, your treasury would take responsibility. What do you say now? Our things can't even leave Chang'an City. How are we going to get these things? Everyone, we are all aware of everyone's difficulties. But we have just informed the higher-ups about this matter. It is said that a special person from Zhenla is on his way here. Before the closure is lifted, he will help you raise these marine fish. Don't worry, all of you. An official's face darkened as he shouted, but the crowd became even angrier. Bullsh *T. If you are willing to solve it, that's good. We will return the goods. Once the road is lifted, we will come back to buy more, okay? We can't afford to lose this kind of consumption. Your Excellency, please do us a favor. It has only been half a day today, and almost 300 pounds of my fish have died. If they continue to die, my goods will really lose everything. Your Excellency, at this time, all the officials were furious. How could they return these things? One of the officials could not help but roar, "Don't worry, everyone. I'm Zhao Er, the steward of the Chang'an local government treasury. You just have to wait a little longer. After today, everything will be fine. Trust me. I'll use my head as a guarantee. If this matter hasn't been resolved by tomorrow morning, I'll give my head to you." Chapter 263. The Imperial Palace. It was bleak and somewhat miserable. In the huge Imperial Palace, the sun was like a big stove, crazily heating up the Imperial City. The people in the city seemed to have lost their souls, listlessly carrying out the things in their hands. If it weren't for the chamberlains of Imperial insignia and the Imperial Guards marching in unison, the Imperial City would have been nothing more than a dead zone. At the moment when the clock struck midnight, teams of Jinwu guards in ordinary clothes hurriedly entered the Imperial City from the Vermilion Bird Gate, escorting an ordinary sedan chair. The moment the palanquin appeared, everyone was flabbergasted. But when everyone saw the leader, Xiao Gizi, all the people on the road knelt on the ground one after another. They no longer despised the heat of the floor. Li Shimin was in the palanquin. He was issuing orders from the palanquin, and the number of Jinwu guards around the palanquin was rapidly shrinking. When the last order was drafted, Li Shimin was a little hesitant. A moment later, he crushed a document that had just been drafted in his hand and asked, "Xiao Gizi, how many people in Chang'an City bought the seafood from the treasury? How many seafood have not been disposed of?" Xiao Gizi bowed even lower when he heard this. "Your Majesty, according to the report just now, there are about 30,000 fish in the Sea of Stone in the treasury that have not been disposed of. Due to the temperature, a large number of these fish die every hour." Li Shimin frowned. Did Zhenla's people not come to help? I remember that King Zhenla had promised me that these fish would be alive and kicking before they left the vault. However, why are there so many requests for returns and a large number of deaths in my hands? This, Your Majesty. How could Xiao Gizi not know that Li Shimin was angry? Wiping away his sweat, who knew if it was cold or hot, he said, "This is all because of the closure of the trade route. Also, I heard that because of the hot weather, many people, according to the instructions of the wax people, threw the fish into the river to soak, so, send a fax to Lord Zhenla. When I return to Taiji Palace, I want to see Lord Zhenla." Li Shimin was angry. The thing he was most afraid of had happened in the end. The other goods were still fine, but this seafood was alive. If there was even the slightest mistake, it would definitely cause an immeasurable loss. It would even cause all the merchants to avoid this item in the future. In that case, how could they talk about trade? He had eaten this thing before. It was delicious. He never doubted Zhang Feng's words, because if he looked down on Zhang Feng's words, reality would give him a slap. This time was a good example. Therefore, Li Shimin was afraid. What he was afraid of was that this newly established cooperative would cause irreparable losses because of this small matter. This was especially true for the plans of Tubo and the other countries. Jinla's product was the best opportunity. Li Shimin would never allow any problems to occur. A moment later, the sedan chair finally appeared outside Taiji Palace. When the sedan chair appeared, groups of palace maids, who had been waiting there, fell to the ground uniformly. Even Wei Zheng and the others had been waiting for a long time. "Greetings, Your Majesty." When Li Shimin got off the sedan chair, everyone knelt down uniformly. Li Shimin waved his sleeves. "Rise." Then, palace maids helped Li Shimin change into a robe as he hurried into Taiji Palace. When Li Shimin's figure appeared in Taiji Palace, King Jinla also got up slowly. When he saw the solemn expression on Li Shimin's face, King Jinla's eyes flickered rapidly. "Greetings, Your Majesty." "You may dispense with the formalities, King Jinla." Li Shimin stepped forward to help King Jinla up. Without any formalities, he said directly, "I called you here today because I have something important to discuss with you. I'm sure you already know about what happened in Chang'an. I would like to ask King Jinla if those marine fishes can still be saved." "Yes." King Jinla's eyes flickered as he thought to himself, as expected. When he saw Li Shimin heave a long sigh of relief, King Jinla said, "The water of these marine fishes is definitely different from the water of the Tang dynasty. I forgot to tell Your Majesty about this. After hearing about this from my subordinates today, I also thought about it carefully. This matter can actually still be resolved. As long as Your Majesty can remove the blockade of the trade route in a short period of time, I can guarantee that the loss of these fishes will be minimized within half a month." "Really?" Upon hearing this, Li Shimin's face was filled with joy. "I don't know how Your Majesty wants to handle this matter. I'll listen to you. However, as you know, most of the things in the Chang and local treasury have been sold. At this time, many merchants are gathered at the entrance of the treasury, looking for a solution. How can this be solved?" Li Shimin was not worried that King Jinla did not know how to save the marine fishes. As a person who grew up by the sea, if he did not have this ability, he would have lived in vain. The most difficult part was how to save the things that had been sold. Otherwise, the trade route? It was just a joke. King Jinla also frowned when he heard this. After pacing around the imperial study for a while, he said, "If Your Majesty trusts me, I dare to send more than 3,000 of my personal guards to help these merchants and save those marine fishes in a short period of time. As for the dead ones, if they are not rotten, I can also restore some of their value." Upon hearing this, Li Shimin was overjoyed. "King Jinla, just tell me, what do you need? I can satisfy you." "Ha ha ha." King Jinla laughed heartily. "I don't need anything, just 10 carriages of poisonous salt." Chapter 264. Li Shimin didn't understand the principle behind it. But if Zhang Feng was here, he would definitely know. The poisonous salt was the crystallization of seawater after it dried up naturally. If it was added to water, it would turn ordinary water into seawater. And the dried salted fish made from dead fish would be coveted by people in the future. But Li Shimin didn't care about all this. What he cared about was to control the turmoil in Chang and city in the shortest time possible. As for the rest, he didn't care. Even if King Jinla asked Li Shimin to help him kill someone, Li Shimin wouldn't hesitate. In the end, King Jinla left in a hurry. After King Jinla left, Wei Zheng and the others hurried into Taiji Palace. As soon as they entered, Li Shimin said without waiting for the others to salute. Today, I've found a solution. Hearing this, everyone secretly breathed a sigh of relief, but then frowned again. Your Majesty, all the trade routes in Chang and city have been blocked by Guanlong. How can you find a solution so quickly? I think that if Brother Zhang Feng can fly, there will be a turning point in this matter. Fly? Old man, do your family know that you're so mean to Brother Zhang Feng? Okay. Li Shimin waved his hand. At this time, he was no longer as dignified as before. He slowly took a sip of tea and said, in fact, it's not so troublesome to fly. Wei Zheng hurriedly asked, Your Majesty, do you mean to take the trade route? Does Your Majesty want to use the Imperial City Guards? Do you want to force open a road? Hearing this, everyone was aghast. This was tantamount to starting a war. If we really start a war with Guanlong, wouldn't we? Everyone's face couldn't help but turn pale at this moment, especially after looking at Li Shimin's expression that everything was under his control. Everyone became even more anxious. Qing Yaojin even gritted his teeth, got down on one knee and said, Your Majesty, if you need the Imperial City Garrison Army, then this general's battle axe would have rusted long ago. How about letting me lead the army? Empress, Li Shimin shook his head slightly. Don't panic. Hearing this, everyone was even more confused. How could they not panic? He was about to shed all pretense of cordiality with Guanlong. Li Shimin looked at everyone's genuine anxiety and couldn't help but feel the last trace of warmth. In this cold imperial court, at least there are some people who are truly thinking for me and the Tang dynasty. Zhen. Li Shimin sounded a little excited. He slowly stood up. When Li Shimin opened his mouth, everyone hurriedly looked at Li Shimin. We were just as anxious as all of you before, perhaps even less indifferent than all of you. But only now do we truly understand that we are not the only ones in this icy imperial court, but all of you. Zhen is very happy. Hearing this, everyone was even more confused. But since the emperor said so, how could they dare to stand still? They all knelt down in unison. Your Majesty, we don't deserve it. It's our duty to share Your Majesty's worries. Li Shimin waved his hand, motioning everyone to stand up, and then said, In fact, this matter is not enough to start a war with Guanlong, and it's not enough to fly into the sky or escape into the ground. If Brother Zhang Feng hadn't mentioned this before, would have forgotten about it. In fact, Chang'an is not a place where there are no mountains and rivers. What? How is this possible? Your Majesty, now the commercial roads in Chang'an City, Luozhou City, and Liangzhou City are blocked. All goods can't be transported out, and all businessmen are waiting for death. If there is a little way, will they stop here? Wei Zheng and the others were dumbstruck. The emperor actually said that Chang'an City was not a place where there are no mountains and rivers? If there is a little way, will it be like this? Your Majesty, if there is a little way to do this, Chang'an. And we just went to ask Yuan Tiangang, and he didn't have a way. I wonder what kind of wonderful method can bring Chang'an back to life, Your Majesty. Bring the dead back to life? Li Shimin smiled. I said that Chang'an is not a place where there are no mountains and rivers. Li Shimin also showed off. He had completely forgotten the worried look on his face this morning. You asked Yuan Tiangang, but did he say why he chose Chang'an as the capital? Wei Jing thought for a moment, discussed with Feng Xianling and others, and then said, I remember very clearly that Chang'an City was the place where the dragon veins converged, and there were 8 dragons occupying it, and Chang'an City was the only dragon eye. As long as Chang'an was occupied, the country would be prosperous and the people would be at peace. Yes. Li Shimin got up, looked at the crowd, and nodded. I forgot this sentence before, but today I suddenly heard another statement from Brother Zhang Feng. 8 rivers of Chang'an. Everyone looked at each other, and they were all shocked. 8 rivers or 8 dragons, they all knew. But the emperor said that Chang'an was not a place where there are no mountains and rivers, and now he said 8 rivers. Could it be, did the emperor mean 8 rivers? Was it the way to solve this crisis? Chapter 265. That's right. This is the only way to solve Guanlong's blockade. I didn't think of it before, but when I was chatting with brother Zhang Feng, he reminded me. The 8 rivers of Chang'an surround Chang'an and converge at the Yellow River. Isn't this a natural trade route? To the west, you can enter the Qinling Mountains, and to the south, you can enter Luozhou. If Guanlong's people had known about this route, I might have paid them a visit today with gifts. But God bless us. The 8 rivers of Chang'an, which we have neglected all this time, unexpectedly became my final solution to Chang'an's crisis. Li Shimin was filled with endless emotions. Wei Zheng and the others were also stunned by what they saw. The 8 rivers of Chang'an. They didn't expect that the final solution would be the 8 rivers of Chang'an. However, the 8 rivers of Chang'an had been abandoned and turned into stinking gutters. It was even worse than the moat of Chang'an City. Could this really solve Chang'an's crisis? Everyone couldn't help but gather together to discuss again. Only then did Wei Zheng begin, Your Majesty, although the 8 rivers of Chang'an are good, when the time comes, at least in this old subject's memory, this old subject has never cleaned it up even once. And every time there was a flood in the Qinling Mountains, the river would have been blocked by silt. Can this be used at this time? Your Majesty. This is a matter of great importance. Why don't we send someone to check it out tomorrow and then do something? Du Ruhui also tried to persuade him. Li Shimin waved his hand. He motioned for everyone to be quiet and then fell into deep thought. Someone in the imperial court must know about this matter. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been known by Guanlong's people so quickly. But who was Guanlong's person? Li Shimin didn't know. After all, there were too many people in the imperial court. There were so many that Li Shimin himself felt a headache. Although this matter was targeted by Guanlong, it was better to say that those in the imperial court were targeting him. Li Shimin's fingers dug deeply into his palm under his embroidered robe. The deep pain made him temporarily forget his impulse to clean up the court. Li Shimin lowered his head and closed his eyes, letting everyone see the killing intent in his eyes. A moment later, Li Shimin slowly opened his eyes. There's no need for tomorrow. Tonight, we will have everyone clear out the blockages in these rivers at all costs. Wei Zheng and Zhangsun Wuji looked at each other, their eyes filled with shock. 8 rivers, 1 night? How many people were needed? However, they also heard the implied meaning in Li Shimin's words. There were all kinds of demons and ghosts in the imperial court, and there were also many people with different surnames and 7 looks. The emperor wanted to avoid these people's eyes and ears and then deal with this matter before he was impeached by these people tomorrow morning. But one could imagine the difficulty of this matter. Emperor. At this moment, Qing Yaojin was excited. He hurriedly said, Your Majesty, you forgot someone. Hearing this, Li Shimin hurriedly asked, Who? The Navy Commander Zhang Liang. If his navy joins in tonight's action, then this matter is absolutely foolproof. Night action is difficult. Although there is a bright moon at night, if a landlubber who is not familiar with water goes down, it will definitely be a gift to the Water Dragon King. So I'm sure that the Navy will be better at this than anyone else. Hearing this, Li Shimin stood up excitedly and patted Qing Yaojin on the shoulder. Yes. How could I forget Zhang Liang? However, at this moment, Li Shimin's excited eyes dimmed again. Zhang Liang's troops are on the coast and near Luozhou. It's too far, not far, not far. Qing Yaojin's face flushed with excitement. He pushed Zhangsun Wuji away and took Li Shimin to the map on the wall. He pointed to the 8 waterways and said, Your Majesty, you don't know. Although Zhang Liang doesn't have a large army, I went to his house last time when I went to drink with him. Good guys, the yard is full of veterans. They are all good swimmers. These are all his loyal followers. After they retired, they had no place to go, so Zhang Liang kept them in his house. Fortunately, there are 3,000 mu of land. They are the ones who take care of it. But I always feel that it's a pity for these ducks to go ashore. I didn't expect to meet them tonight. Hearing this, Li Shimin couldn't help frowning slightly. In Zhang Liang's house, there were 3,000 retired veterans. What did Zhang Liang want to do? However, at this moment, Li Shimin couldn't help but smile. Patting the agitated Qing Yaojin, he said, "Now that you mention it, we do remember. We had forgotten about this group of Navy soldiers who had once cut through all obstacles for the Great Tang. However, 3,000 soldiers aren't enough. Hey! You don't know about this, right? Although Zhang Liang is idle at home outside Chang'an City, he is still in charge of recruiting Marines. The place he is at is the training ground for Marines. Last time, when we were drunk, he insisted on dragging me to swim. Good guy, there were tens of thousands of ducks in the dark. Success." Li Shimin's expression changed. He didn't expect that Zhang Liang would inadvertently save him. Pass down the decree. Let Zhang Liang bring all his men to the 8 rivers to clean up the waterways. If the cleanup is completed before dawn, I will personally set up the Chang'an Navy residence and let this group of veterans manage the 8 rivers. Wei Zheng, we command you to personally announce the decree. You must announce it in front of all the Navy soldiers. Wei Zheng's eyes flashed, and he hurriedly bowed. Yes, Your Majesty. Chapter 266. In Chang'an City, near Anhuimen, the reclining square was a lot more deserted. It was basically a place for retired veterans to enjoy their old age. The premise was that they had to have their own house in Chang'an City. If they didn't have a house, they would be arranged to stay in Reclining Square. Hence, the name Reclining Square came about. In the past, it wasn't called Reclining Square. It was called Performing Arts Square. As many veterans stayed there, people jokingly called it Reclining Square, a good place to wait for euthanasia. To the west of Xia Reclining Square, near the Qingming Canal, was the mansion of Navy Admiral Zhang Liang. To the side of the mansion was the Qingming Canal. On the shore, there were magnificent buildings. There were docks, small boats, as well as water equipment used for training. In the filthy river, where piles of feces floated down, it seemed so, what was it? On the other side, a large group of dark-skinned, muscular men with tanned skin as if they had been smeared with tung oil were following behind each other. A group of middle-aged men, who looked like teachers, had their hands behind their backs and were holding large bamboo poles in their hands. They squinted their eyes and stared at the surface of the water. On the other side, a man was leisurely chanting the number. Many times, even though he had already said 10, he seemed to be suffering from Alzheimer's. The next word he shouted would become 2. Who the F***ck was 2? However, all the dark-skinned men stuck their butts out and buried their heads deep in the water. They didn't dare to poke their heads out. At this time, if any unlucky man dared to poke his head out, what awaited him would be fried meat with bamboo poles in the hands of the veterans. At the highest point of the training ground, Zhang Liang stroked his white beard and squinted his eyes at the butts sticking out of the water. He couldn't help but nod. Not bad. Not bad. The quality of this year's batch is not bad. Old Lin. You've done well. When the salary from the Ministry of Works arrives, I'll reward you with 10 taels of silver. Beside Zhang Liang, a man with a mustache and a face full of pockmarks quickly bowed and said, "Thank you, Commander." Zhang Liang waved his hand. "Since you've already retired, you can just call me Old Master in the future. Do you think I won't dare to talk about this Commander-in-Chief outside?" Hearing this, Elder Lin hurriedly knelt on the ground, his body trembling with excitement. In this general's heart, you are still the Commander-in-Chief. It's always one for life. Ha ha ha. Good, good, good. Zhang Liang helped old Lin up with great relief. However, at this moment, a nimble servant hurriedly climbed up the 30 zhang high platform and hurriedly reported, "Governor, Duke Zheng is here." Zhang Liang's eyes flashed. He waved his hand and asked, "What's the matter?" "I don't know, but I saw that Lord Protector Zheng had His Majesty's Imperial Edict in his hand and was on his way to the drill ground. That's why I thought it was suspicious and came to report to you in advance." Imperial Edict? Wei Zheng actually came in person. What did he come here for? Zhang Liang was puzzled. The Imperial Edict was usually read by someone from the Department of Internal Servants, and he hadn't received an Imperial Edict for many years. What was the Emperor's intention this time? Of course, Zhang Liang knew what had happened in Chang'an City, but the Emperor had come to him at this time. What was the meaning of this? He couldn't see through it. He waved his hand and said, "Send the message. Everyone stop training and wait for the Imperial Edict." Yes. Although he didn't know why. Since the Emperor had issued an Imperial Edict, as an official, he had to accept it. Otherwise, he would be disobeying the Imperial Edict. Moreover, the strange thing was that this time, Wei Zheng didn't read the Imperial Edict in the mansion but came to the drill ground. Could it be, did the Emperor know that there were veterans in his mansion? But His Majesty knew about this. Although he didn't know the exact number, he didn't hide it. Strange. All of this was very strange. When Zhang Liang came to the drill ground, a group of greasy black men were standing in line, panting. Wei Zheng's voice sounded not far away. "Brother Zhang. Long time no see." Zhang Liang hurriedly cupped his fists when he heard that. "Prime Minister Wei. I wonder what brings you here today. We haven't seen each other for almost half a year. Let's go to the mansion and have a drink." Wei Zheng, who was wearing a red robe, sighed. "Let's wait for the next time. This time, I'm here to read the Imperial Edict of the Emperor. Brother Zhang, shall we accept the Imperial Edict?" "Okay." Zhang Liang cupped his fists. Then, the eunuch from the Minister of Internal Affairs behind Wei Zheng screamed, "The Imperial Edict is here. Zhang Liang, accept the Imperial Edict." All kneel. Whoosh. Whoosh. In an instant, the swarthy men all knelt down in unison. Even Wei Zheng was a little shocked. Are these all the soldiers of the Tang dynasty? But his eyes flashed. Wei Zheng's expression suddenly changed. He read the Imperial Edict. "By the will of the heavens, the Emperor says. Today, I learned that Minister Zhang has 3,000 retired soldiers. This is my mistake. I forgot that you have made great contributions to the Tang dynasty." Zhang Liang's expression changed. The expressions of all the Marines present, especially those veterans, changed greatly. There were even some old soldiers who were trembling all over at this moment. The Emperor didn't forget us. But at this moment, Wei Zheng's voice sounded again. "I intend to set up a navy mansion in Chang'an. Today, I have a request for all of you. Tomorrow morning, clear out 8 rivers that can carry ships. If you complete the task, I will appoint the person you choose as the steward of the Navy Mansion. From now on, he will be responsible for managing the 8 dragon veins in Chang'an." Hearing that, a mouthful of blood spurted out of Zhang Liang's mouth, and he completely fainted. Chapter 267. Wei Zheng sighed after announcing the Imperial Edict. "Someone, summon the Imperial Physician. Quick. Send Governor Zhang back to his residence and take good care of him." Wei Zheng knew that this would happen today. If it weren't for this incident and the Emperor's desire to clean up the 8 rivers, Zhang Liang's actions would have led to his demise. Now, Zhang Liang fainted, which was the best outcome. The Emperor had only transferred all the Navy veterans around him. Otherwise, if this incident were to spread to the ears of other officials, the Imperial Edict he was waiting for today would not be just this. It would be a crime of rebellion. The emperor allowed all the generals of the Tang dynasty to have private soldiers, but the number could only be controlled at 500. If the number exceeded this number, a light punishment would be a punishment, and a heavy punishment would be a crime. Zhang Liang taking in this group of veterans seemed to be a kind act, but when combined with his recruitment of new soldiers in Cheng and the 3,000 veterans, how terrifying was this? If he had the slightest bit of disloyalty, he only needed to wave his hand gently, and all the waterways around Cheng and along the Chao River would go straight to Taiji Palace. How terrifying was this? Would the emperor allow this? Would the officials allow this, especially when the veterans who were good at swimming were sleeping soundly beside the bed? No. Absolutely not. That was why Wei Zheng sighed when he saw Zhang Liang vomiting blood and fainting. When Qing Yaojin mentioned this incident, he had already seen the killing intent in the emperor's eyes. However, because of the current situation, the emperor did not say anything. However, there was no guarantee that the emperor would not settle accounts after this. Hopefully, Governor Zhang could understand the emperor's difficulties. Wei Zheng watched Zhang Liang leave before he continued, and Lufang. What an excellent and Lufang. Before coming here, the old man did not know that this place had been renamed in Lufang. He also saw the situation here with his own eyes. The old and the weak who retired from the years of war, the imperial court neglected you. This is our fault. Wei Zheng sighed deeply and then bowed deeply in front of the frightened eyes of all the soldiers. Prime Minister Wei. Prime Minister Wei is actually bowing to us bumpkins. Everyone had tears in their eyes. Someone even knelt on the ground with a choked voice. Prime Minister Wei, you mustn't. Prime Minister Wei, you mustn't. We're all bumpkins with no status. You're torturing us by doing this. Minister Wei. Wei Zheng waved his hand. He gestured for everyone to rise. However, everyone still refused to get up no matter what. Wei Zheng could only sigh and say, "This bow is this official returning justice to all of you on behalf of the people of the world. This is your honor." This is the glory you've earned as soldiers. If you hadn't sacrificed your lives to protect the Tang dynasty and shed your blood for the founding of the Tang dynasty, how could the Tang dynasty flourish now? This official only wants to say one thing: His Majesty has not forgotten you. The people of the world have not forgotten you. Wei Zheng's voice was choking. As for the soldiers present, they all started to cry. Once upon a time, they had dreamed that one day, they would be recognized. But after the war ended, when they returned to their homes, they discovered that there was nothing left. Their relatives, neighbors, playmates that they had grown up with, and so on, were all gone. They had knelt in their homeland and cried bitterly. They had been lost and did not even know where to go. However, at that moment, the commander-in-chief had given them a home. A home that could not be considered a home. It had been a few years, but the former emperor had not promised them a reward in Cheng and city. They had given up because they also knew that the Tang dynasty had just been established and needed an opportunity to develop. They had waited for a few years. Today, the emperor finally remembered them. How could they not be excited? Moreover, he had even set up a navy residence in Cheng and for them. What was that? That was an honor bestowed upon them by the emperor. It was a department set up by the emperor himself, and it was dedicated solely to the emperor. At that moment, they suddenly felt that their backs were straightened. They were no longer wandering ghosts. At that moment, they finally found the right to walk freely in their neighborhood and on Cheng and street with an identity tag hanging on their waists. They were also people with an organization and status. Everyone wept bitterly once again. Even the cries here attracted the old and weak soldiers who were waiting to die in the reclining square. After they heard this news, their originally numb eyes suddenly shone with a light of excitement once again. We found our goal. The emperor has not forgotten us. The Tang dynasty has not forgotten us. Wei Zheng looked at the vast expanse of dark, tower-like men who were suffering under the scorching sun like children. He also choked with sobs. Those were the soldiers who had once exchanged their lives for the peace of the world. Wei Zheng had an impulse many times. He really wanted to grab those people in the court who opposed the soldiers and see if they could still be in the court peacefully if it were not for those bumpkin soldiers. Wei Zheng sighed deeply. The imperial censor and the eunuchs of the Minister of Internal Affairs behind him also fell silent. They lowered their heads and hurriedly recorded everything they saw. After a while, when the cries and venting voices had subsided a little, Wei Zheng shouted loudly, "The emperor has not forgotten the brothers who fought with him to build the Tang dynasty. It's just that the Tang dynasty has encountered some troubles now, and the emperor has no time to care about you. But now, your opportunity has come. Now, you all know what happened in Chang'an City, right? It's a trap. This is a test given by God to the Tang dynasty. Therefore, the emperor needs the brothers who fought with him in the past." Everyone was jealous. They roared at the top of their lungs, "I'm willing to climb the mountain of swords again for the emperor and die 1,000 times for him." "Good." Wei Zheng nodded and pointed to the stinky river beside them. "This is your new battlefield. His Majesty wants all of you to clean up these 8 rivers before dawn tomorrow. Can you do it?" "Yes. Even if we have to pay with our lives, we will make the water in these 8 rivers clear before dawn tomorrow." "Good. Then, let's go. The emperor is waiting for your new battle report in Taiji Palace." "Yes, sir." Chapter 268. Everyone, the Marines, the veterans watching from the shore, and the soldiers who were missing arms and legs, without waiting for anyone to give the order, jumped into the water with a splash. They used their hands or tools to clean up the muddy, stinky water with all their might. At the beginning, only tens of thousands of soldiers were doing it. But as the battle dragged on, the people of Chang'an were alarmed. After hearing Wei Zheng's words, he couldn't sit still anymore. The emperor was in danger. That was also the crisis of Chang'an City. At this time, the emperor even asked Prime Minister Wei to bow in order to lift the blockade of Chang'an City. How could their status be higher than Prime Minister Wei's? What was Prime Minister Wei? He was the emperor's official. He bowed to these bumpkins and even the slaves. In other words, Prime Minister Wei represented the emperor and bowed to all the bumpkins in the world. The men of the Tang dynasty were very simple. They were also very emotional. Although this was only said to the veterans, who were these veterans? They were all people just like them. Some of them were even missing arms and legs. They were more healthy than these people, right? If the emperor could jump into the smelly ditch where they washed their urinals, clothes, and vegetables to clean up the muddy water for them, how could they sit still? Unless his skin was thicker than the city walls. Therefore, on all the streets, groups of old men with crutches were beating gongs to spread the news. As long as they were not bedridden, they should King go to the river to clean up the muddy water for Lao Tzu. Who would not go? Fine. Get out of Chang'an. Because they did not deserve to be called Chang'an people. The people of Chang'an were all King cowards. Why did the emperor do this? Was it not to let the people live a more comfortable life? If the river was cleaned up, everything would be better, right? At the very least, they could wash the chamber pots. No, in such a clean river, who the *ck dared to wash the chamber pots? Lao Tzu would be the first to tear him apart. The men of Guangzhou were so stubborn. When they said that they were going to clean up the muddy water in front of their own homes, who the *ck could sit still? She was so embarrassed that she panicked. Then, from old men in their 80s to children in their 20s or 13 years old, they all carried it on their shoulders. Then, carrying the basket, he jumped into the river and joined the ranks of those who were cleaning the river. The army in charge of clearing the river started from around 5 p.m. to around sunset. The number of people involved in clearing the river had increased from the initial tens of thousands to more than 100,000. In the end, even if no one reminded them, the merchants could no longer sit still. How embarrassing. The commoners had all gone to clean up the river. Even if they shouted themselves hoarse, no one came to look at their goods. They were even met with disdainful looks from the commoners. Could they sit still? They had poured more feces and urine into the river than the commoners, right? He was cleaning up after them. Aren't they ashamed? Even the ancestors of the family couldn't sit still, so this broom ran out and pointed at their noses, scolding them until their parents panicked. As a matter of fact, all the merchants were urging their servants to jump into the smelly ditch to dig out the feces themselves. In the setting sun, Li Shimin stood in the attic of the third floor of the sleeping palace. He looked at the rivers in the setting sun that were originally dazzling like silver ribbons. At this time, they had become pitch black. The veins on the back of his hand that was holding the railing were exposed. Guanyin servant, do you think these 8 rivers can really solve this crisis? Li Shimin muttered to Zhang Sun Wugo, who was also looking into the distance behind him. Zhang Sun Wugo pursed her lips and grabbed Li Shimin's hand. She said softly, "Second brother, actually you already have the answer in your heart, right?" The answer? Li Shimin lowered his gaze and looked silently at that slender hand. At this time, there was still a thimble on her hand. Suddenly, Li Shimin remembered that the shoes he had been wearing this year, as well as the shoes worn by the crown prince and the other princes, were all made by his empress. The palace was not so poor that they could not even afford to wear shoes. However, in order to save money, Empress Zhangsun still insisted on sewing and making shoes by herself. Li Shimin suddenly felt very tired. He felt ashamed to face Zhangsun Wugo. In these 2 years, he had been dealing with one problem after another, but he had neglected the person by his side. He was not a qualified husband. As for whether he was a qualified monarch or not, he was a little confused at this time. Since the Wei River Alliance half a year ago, he had been dispirited. He was at a loss when the court was full of impeachment. It was not until the appearance of Zhang Feng that he found a glimmer of light to revive the Tang dynasty. But, when he was in a hurry to prepare for a big fight, he turned his head and found that there was still a sharp blade hanging over his head. 5 surnames and 7 hopes. This fierce tiger that made him afraid finally showed its ferocious teeth this time. He was very afraid. He was very afraid that everything he had done would be turned into ashes with a wave of the 5 surnames and 7 hopes. Alas! Li Shimin sighed deeply. Rubbing Zhangsun Wugo's hand, he looked at the red sunset and murmured, "How could I not want to have the answer in my heart?" Chapter 269. Zhang Feng was dumbfounded. Guzi, Zhu Zi, and the others who liked to surround him, as well as old He and the others, had all disappeared. Just as he was taking an afternoon nap under the crooked tree, the people on the street seemed to have suddenly disappeared without a trace. What was going on? Where were they? Zhang Feng stood at the entrance of the empty market, grabbing his hair and looking at the empty street with a dumbfounded expression. He was completely dumbfounded. What the hell? Could it be that Lao Tzu was sleepwalking? Or was it a dream? Zhang Feng was really dumbfounded. Even the old scholar who had been squatting under the big willow tree at the entrance of the street, which was big enough for 3 adults to surround, was nowhere to be seen. Other than a dream, was there any other explanation? Quick! You Motherf asterisk Kerr, other people are cleaning the river, but you Motherf asterisk Kerr, hiding in the house and sleeping in the middle of the day? Aren't you ashamed? Your father. He's 72 years old, and he's already carrying a hoe into the river. You, a strong young man, are hiding in the house and sleeping? No, sir, please do me a favor. I still have to work at night. I just got off work today. Just let me sleep for a while. Sleep? Why don't you sleep yourself to death? What time is it now? You Motherf asterisk Kerr, it's almost 9 o'clock. Quick, don't talk nonsense, 2 hours is enough for you to clean up the river's feces. Amidst the waves of cursing and begging, Zhang Feng stared at an old man in the market, who was pulling the night watchman's ear and walking over. Zhang Feng hurriedly went forward, clasped his hands and asked, "Sir, you said you were going to clean the river? These people are going to clean the river?" When the old man saw that it was Zhang Feng, he put away the anger on his face and grinned. "Well, it's because we've dirted the river, so the emperor sent those old and weak soldiers to clean the river. How could we stand by and watch? It's so embarrassing." So, we all spontaneously joined in. "You rest, I'm going." Zhang Feng usually taught those little brats how to read. This already shocked everyone. As slaves, how could they afford to hire a teacher? Moreover, it was Sir who took the initiative to teach their child. There must be smoke rising from their ancestral graves. In addition, Zhang Feng was usually generous. Basically, every family had received his kindness, so they would not allow Zhang Feng to go to such a matter. Even if Zhang Feng went, he would definitely be carried back in a matter of minutes. Who was Zhang Feng? That was the best person in the entire city. Moreover, he was a peerless talent. Who would dare to ask him to wash sand in the river? If anyone dared to do so, there would be a group of red-eyed people who would go up and break their legs. Zhang Feng was very depressed. But he was also very curious. This Lao Li's speed was really fast. How long had it been? 6 hours? Or 4 hours? How could he encourage so many people to take the initiative to wash the river? Zhang Feng did not believe in heresy. He paced around the crowd and quietly followed them to the Dragon Head West Canal, which was near the Department of Justice near the Spring Bright Gate. Before he reached the river, he could already hear the clamor of shouting and waves of stench. The river channel was clogged all year round. If it was not cleaned up for a long time, then it would be fine. It was only when one walked in that the stench would come. But if someone were to wash it here, then the stench would definitely reach the sky. Zhang Feng pinched his nose and stuck his head out from a small alley behind a tailor shop. His eyes widened. What the hell? Good guy. He saw that in the river channel, everyone was bare-chested, sticking their butts out as they dug the mud. A group of old Navy soldiers were like loaches, diving into the water. As long as they found something hard, they would immediately stick the willow branches in their hands there. In an instant, dozens of people would rush up, as if they wanted to empty the bottom of the river. On the shore, there were all kinds of porcelain fragments or even intact chamber pots, porcelain, rusty arrow shafts, crossbows, broadswords and bronze swords. They were all casually thrown on the shore. Seeing this, Zhang Feng was drooling. If this was in the future, then these would be priceless treasures. Especially one of the scabbard that was shining with golden light, it made Zhang Feng unable to move his eyes away. This thing was either something that came along with it, or something that was left behind by an important person in some dynasty. This kind of treasure was a scabbard made of pure gold. These simple people, however, did not fight over it. If this was in the future, damn, even a broken tile would be picked up by people in minutes. How could they still see it? At that moment, an old voice rang out from behind Zhang Feng. You're right. You're right. Isn't this shopkeeper Zhang? Zhang Shanren, what are you doing here? This place stinks to the heavens. If you get stained by it, it won't be good. Quickly leave. Zhang Feng was also stunned. Old man, I also want to help. You are all busy, I am just a strong young man, no. The old man was angry. He shouted, someone come. Zhang Shanren is here. A few young men, come and carry Zhang Shanren back. In this place, we cannot let Zhang Shanren's body be stained. Zhang Feng's face darkened. He was really carried away by a few strong men on their shoulders, as if they were carrying a sack. Chapter 270. Dong, dong, dong. With the sound of 3 morning bells. At the dawn of the east, the civil and military officials, after going through layers of inspection in front of the Vermilion Bird Gate, slowly entered the Vermilion Bird Avenue. All the officials had a heavy heart at this time, but there was a group of people who were staring sharply at Wei Zhang and the others, who were standing at the front of the line. If looks could kill, Wei Zhang and the others would have been killed thousands of times. These people were the officials of the 5 surnames and 7 hopes. Last night, they received a secret letter from the Guanlong group. They impeached Fang Xianling for taking advantage of the responsibility of the Ministry of Works to tamper with the currency without authorization. They impeached Zhang Sun Wuji for colluding with the officials and merchants, which led to the current chaos in Chang'an. They impeached the emperor for ignoring the expectations of the people of the world and using all the silver in the national treasury to buy the so-called seafood from Jinla without authorization. That kind of thing is absolutely disgusting to look at. This was the emperor's doing. If it wasn't for Wei Zhang, Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, and Zhang Sun Wuji urging, would the emperor be like this? These people should be killed. At this time, Wei Zhang and the others didn't seem to see the eyes of these people. Several people exchanged glances and entered the political announcement hall. Today, the atmosphere in the political announcement hall was a bit strange. No one was like before, whispering in 2s and 3s. It was as if they didn't see the actions of hundreds of thousands of people in Chang'an last night. In this strange atmosphere, Cheng Yaojin finally couldn't resist the feeling of having a knife on his back. The natural military blood made him explode. But just as he was about to burst out, Wei Jing grabbed his hand and shook his head slightly. The emperor arrives. With the eunuch's shout, everyone hurriedly knelt and shouted in unison, "Welcome the emperor! Long live the emperor!" Li Shimin walked out of the back hall amidst the cheers of the officials. However, this time, Li Shimin did not step onto the 9 steps to heaven's staircase. Instead, he slowly walked to the top of the hall and surveyed the crowd. Wei Zheng nodded slightly, and Li Shimin's expression finally relaxed. His bloodshot eyes finally let go of the last bit of worry. Last night, Li Shimin did not sleep at all. He couldn't sleep. He didn't dare to sleep until he received news of the 8 Rivers Channel. This was because he knew that something was bound to happen at the morning court. But after seeing Wei Zheng's affirmation, Li Shimin was finally relieved. "Everyone, rise." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Everyone stood up. However, there were still a dozen officials who remained kneeling on the ground. Li Shimin was so angry that he laughed. Wei Zheng, on the other hand, was still standing there without saying a word. Li Shimin looked around at the people kneeling on the ground and asked, "Is this what all of you think?" The Taichung Temple chief and the others hurriedly said, "We have some spies in Chang'an and have seen Prime Minister Wei, Lord Zhangsun, General Cheng, and the others frequently go out of the city in disguise. We even saw Your Majesty. Therefore, we think that it is not right to punish them for this matter." "Good. Very good. Is there anyone else who thinks so?" Li Shimin shouted angrily. In an instant, a large number of people knelt again. Even the warlords of the Guanlong group in the north knelt when the generals knelt. At this time, there were only about 30 people who were still standing. In the end, Li Shimin's fury could not be extinguished. Just as Li Shimin was about to order the arrest of these people, Fang Xianling suddenly shouted, "Your Majesty! I have something to report." You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.